Welcome back, everybody, to Goodwill Podcasting with Dan and Stone. Connor is out today for personal reasons, but no matter. On your movie podcast today, we have two replacements to talk about horror video game adaptations. Very interesting group of films we're going to talk about today because Until Dawn released this past weekend, and those movies are 2002's Resident Evil, 2006's Silent Hill, 2021's Werewolves Within, and then also the aforementioned Until Dawn. But that's enough of me talking. We get enough of that on this podcast. Like I said, two brand new guests on Goodwill Podcasting this morning, Steven and Crystal. Thank you so much for being here, and thank you for being here so early. I almost say that on every single episode because our audience knows how early we record this, and especially Crystal, with you being somewhat on the West Coast. You're a champ. I appreciate it.
Living in the past. You guys are in the future, so...
It's not very good over here, but
that's all right. We're all on the same timeline, so.
But you guys might be the most special duo we've had on. I think we've had duos on in the past, but we were really excited for you to join us because we know you're working on something special, specifically with the horror community, and hopefully a lot of the people who are watching this episode are going to be a part of that. So if you want to give some insight, take as much time as you need into what you guys are making. I think it'll be very interesting, not only for us, but also our audience to hear about it.
Perfect. I'll start it out. So me and Steven, back in December, we were working on a project. He was directing, I was assistant directing, and we're on a freeway in California. And I randomly thought about the fact that the horror community is so wild on social media, not just social media, but conventions, merch. I feel like the horror genre has such a group that other movie genres don't have. But it's also not just movies, it's horror video games, horror books. We see horror everywhere. You can go to a regular store and you'll find Freddy Krueger stuff and Jason and Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Like, it's just everywhere, but you don't see like the romance community of movies or comedy or anything like that. So we were just thinking, it'd be a really cool idea to kind of dive into it more. And this was also with the impending, TikTok ban and all these things happening, seeing creators everywhere kind of freak out. So we were like, it'd be really interesting to dive into the horror community because I feel like horror movies get kind of a bad rep. You think of a certain type of people when you don't really know much about it. So we just really wanted to dive in and see why movies that freak people the fuck out. Can I curse on this podcast? Okay, perfect. Yeah, my father was a sailor, so I have a sailor's mouth. But yeah, why do the things that scare us kind of bring people together? It's a weird thing to connect people.
And then when she pitched the idea to me, we're just sort of like, it's like stream of thought kind of thing. But for me, every documentary that I work on has to start with a question. And when she pitched that to me in that way, with that question, why is horror so capable of bringing communities together? I was in. I'm like, we're doing this. We're fucking doing it because we're both in that community, and I really fully can't answer the question. So it was kind of a no-brainer, And my previous film was a documentary about people who worked in a haunted house establishment and what brought them there. So it almost kind of felt like this weird natural evolution of where I had come from as a filmmaker. So we had to do it. It was meant to be.
Yeah, you guys have already gotten a lot of interviews done for that. I know you were doing some at South by Southwest. I think it's going to be really exciting to see the finished product. What's the timeline looking like for it right now?
So the flow of a documentary, the way I like to make documentaries is I'm not, as a director, I don't manipulate stuff. I just point the camera and keep going until things happen. Mm-hmm. So we have sort of a year turnaround that we'd like to do, but it's loose. We're gonna follow the stories and see how it goes. But we'd like to be done in a year. Now, a lot of that depends on how quickly we can put funding together to continue the project and that kind of thing, which kind of does lead me into saying that if you go to Love Horror Doc social medias, TikTok and Instagram, there's links to our Indiegogo, and we're running a constant fundraising campaign because it's not an expensive project to make, but it does require us to travel quite a bit. So it's kind of depends on that and to some degree.
Understood.
How many interviews have you done so far for it?
Five so far. We've done 4 in person, and then 1 online with someone in the UK.
Ah, very
Which
nice.
there is
Which is cool to see how
definitely
far the horror community like reaches. I mean, I know we just
yeah.
had Brian Fear's Ghost on, from
Oh,
Scotland. So
Yeah.
yep, exactly. And it's interesting. It's different vibes depending on where they're from. And I'm kind of something we're kind of trying to figure out if there is a big difference. In America, we see a lot more of it. And I just wonder if it's because we're so desensitized, like as a nation, to what we see as far as violence and all that kind of stuff, just in everyday life in comparison to other countries. So another kind of path we're looking at.
And it's so cool too. And part of what's interesting about the community is everyone is from everywhere, but social media lets everyone be together. So that's a big piece of what we're doing too.
yeah, I'm curious. So you guys said, if I heard you correctly, you guys think, or you would say that you are a part of the community. I know you talk about a lot, but you are part of the horror community, which gives you a foot in this. Me and Dan were talking about it before we jumped on, before you guys joined us today, kind of like maybe swinging a little bit into what we're talking about. And you mentioned it, Crystal, but do you guys play horror video games? Because me and Dan don't or haven't played that much.
I've played some, so I'll be completely honest. Horror is probably my favorite genre. I'm a baby back bitch. Like I watch movies like this. People tell me I turn horrors into comedies when they're there because I'm that person where I'm like, oh no, oh my god, what's going on? So I am the same with horror video games. I've played a good amount of the Resident Evils. I've played some Silent Hill until the point where I was too scared to proceed. So I have played some.
I've played. I'm definitely a casual gamer, but I have played a lot. I've played Silent Hill 1 and 2. I remember playing those. I've played several of the Resident Evil games. I currently play Dead by Daylight all the time. Like if I'm playing a game, I'm playing Dead by Daylight with friends. So yeah, I've played quite a bit. Now I haven't played some of the newer stuff, and I haven't played the one that's based the new movie. I haven't played Until Dawn, but yeah, I've played quite a bit.
So Dan, you said you played a little bit of No, you played Silent Hill, right?
No, I've dabbled with Resident Evil. I think Resident Evil 4 is the game I played the most of. Definitely good games. I think it's interesting because I think the genre of game lends itself pretty well to movie adaptations. I think it's happened a lot to kind of mixed results, but it's definitely. I mean, I think it's definitely a challenge when you're adapting a game because I think, especially if there's a passionate fan base there, and I think we're kind of seeing that right now with Until Dawn. There's a big chance to let people down, or piss people off, which I guess can almost be a good thing with marketing. But yeah, I think it's definitely a challenge for these filmmakers, and definitely some mixed results of what we're talking about today.
I think it's so interesting because you can go one of two ways. You can either live and die by the source material and end up just putting the game on the big screen, or you can completely fucking forget the source material and just use the name and do something else. And I think it's interesting with two of the movies we're talking about are that one of them is very live and die by the source material. The other one just says, nah, we're just going to use the name. And we'll get to how well that works out, I guess, when we start talking about those movies.
Yeah, that is a very interesting conversation because I don't know whatever choice the filmmaker or the team behind it makes. I don't think it's consistent as in whether it'll succeed or not if you directly follow the games, which is really interesting. I will say also, Crystal, I think Dan's maybe made fun of me before for it, but I'm also the type where I'm covering my face. I don't. Here's the thing. We haven't talked about it yet. Yeah, I didn't. Oh, might have been my brother. My bad. I sorry, but I see Until Dawn. We'll get into it. Very cliche horror setup, scares in it. but I know they're coming, and I still don't like the noises, man. I still don't like the loud noises.
They
get
always,
me.
any horror movie, the sound design
Don't
can
like
make
it.
or break it with the atmosphere. Sometimes you're just tense and I'm just waiting, and then here I am.
I'm ashamed.
It's funny because I feel like oftentimes when they use those auditory jump scares, it's because the movie doesn't have any atmosphere. So it's like, got to do something to get you. So like, it makes me so mad. But yeah, we'll get to that. I wanted to say quickly, I think, just circling back to what we were just saying, I don't think it's inherently bad to like divert from source material and kind of try to do your own thing or tell your own story, but like, you better have a plan. Like you have to be doing something, I think, with a specific intention and understand like how you like exactly how you want to change it and what your point is. Otherwise it just feels like you're trying to grab a hold of some IP to get traction when you may not otherwise.
Yeah, and I feel like with the video games, they have a little more liberty as far as, okay, let's take the, what this is about and maybe not go exactly the same route. When it's like a book adaptation, it's like you better nail that a little better than you would have to with a video game.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting. I was sort of, when we started talking about this particular episode, this podcast, I started kind of deep diving into it a little bit. And I think the magic, honestly, and we're going to talk about a movie that did this, is to take a game that has almost very little going on and then take a good story and build around it. Because if you have something that's really deep with world building and story and all that stuff, you have to use all that stuff. But if you take something that's got a very cool premise and that's really about it, maybe you can build a cool story around it. I think that's really the easier way to go. That's the way. If I were directing one, that's what I would prefer. 100%. It's just take a story that's just got a cool gimmick, and then I'll use that gimmick from the game and put a story around it.
Yeah, I think you want a world too that has like a specific aesthetic that you can like kind of adopt and like appeal to it. And I think one of these movies does that. But do you guys want to get into Resident Evil a little bit? That's our first movie back in 2002.
Yeah.
I think this is the most interesting one to talk about, right? Because in hindsight, this is the most successful. I mean, obviously, Until Dawn just came out, but as far as I can tell, there's been 4 movies. Resident Evil, obviously the one we're going to talk about, but then Resident Evil Retribution, Resident Evil Afterlife, and then Resident Evil The Final Chapter.
There's 7, I think.
What? Oh, did Paul W.S. Anderson not direct all of them?
No.
No.
Oh, okay. My bad.
There are some worse ones there still.
Oh, yeah.
You dive deeper. We'll pretend the other 3 don't exist. That's all.
Okay. Oh, okay. So the 3. Okay. So Anderson's kind of like the magic. Whatever magic is in this, he is contributing. I would say, Chris, I'm just going to pitch this to you. I've done like we've said it straight up. Me and Dan have not played this game, so we're coming from a different perspective. From what I read, very different. Right, the character of Alice not in the games at all. And obviously, she's at the center of all of these movies, even though I've only seen the first one. And I think the big thing is, obviously, we're going to talk about Silent Hill right after this. Is that I think from what I read, the games feel kind of like Silent Hill. It's like this horror atmosphere, spooky. That's what Resident Evil is. But then Anderson's like, let's make it action, which is what he does. So coming from you playing the games, what did you think about Resident Evil? Do you think it works? Do you like the, him steering off course from what the game does and doing his own thing? I mean, it seems like it's maybe been successful.
Yeah, I think their Resident Evil movies are more successful of most adaptations. When it comes to horror, I think him veering off isn't that big of a deal with Resident Evil, because I mean, truly the basis of Resident Evil, it's definitely the vibes and whatnot. But I mean, we're killing zombies, and that that's the game. You're going through, you're killing zombies. And I think as long as you get the basis of, Raccoon City and, there's the hive underneath and you get kind of those key points, I don't think the main character matters so much. And I think as far as the game too, you're not going in to Resident Evil like, what is the huge storyline this game? It is, I am here to kill some fucking zombies and not let them kill me.
I think it's really interesting, the sort of the history behind this movie, because to what you guys were saying, there's so many Resident Evil games. There's different ones now, with hindsight. But at the time that was made, there were just it was almost kind of like haunted house vibes with weapons,
Mhm.
But the studios were trying to get this movie made, and George Romero was attached to it initially, which I think would have been a much better choice to tell the story. That fell through. Paul W.S. Anderson comes along after Event Horizon and fully admits, and this is out there, you can find it, that he had a script that was a complete knockoff of Resident Evil. And the studio saw the script and they basically just reskinned it with Resident Evil branding. And that's why the movie, the first one especially, has very little to do with the actual game, except weirdly wedged in dialogue taken from the game, or some very particular monsters. But it is radically different than the game. You don't see a lot of the characters. You don't see that stuff. So it's weird, because this is the one I was thinking of that just doesn't really care about the source material. Honestly, it had its own story and they just sort of skinned it.
And
They're zombies.
Romero had made a commercial for Resident Evil 2 that they loved. And it seemed like he really kind of threw himself into it. He had his secretary play the entire game, and then basically he could watch a walkthrough of it to get into it. But I agree with you. I feel like that probably would have been the better choice. How do you guys feel in general about Paul as a director? Like, what is your kind of feel around his work? Like, how would you kind of bucket it? He's had kind of a strange career. But how do you guys feel about him as a filmmaker?
Oh, Steven's got
He's
all
had a
the
long
background on
career,
the
I'll say
director.
I I don't like him as a director very much. I mean, it's funny because this has actually been a really fun thing to do, because I would always quote, when I was asked about guilty pleasures, I would go to Resident Evil because I remember really liking it. But then when looking at it, like, and actually thinking about it, it's garbage. But I'm not surprised, because I also am in the weird space, at least on social media, of saying that Event Horizon is also garbage. I hate that movie. I feel like he is somebody who can create this almost like rock and roll vibe to his movies, which is cool and is fun, and that gets butts in seats enough to keep him working. You look at his filmography and you go, how?
30 years. 30
Yeah.
years. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's crazy
and
that he's made like Mila like Jovovich like his like actor, which is very interesting.
because the thing about her, and that, honestly, that is a big part of what people love about Resident Evil, is she looks great. I mean, she is a badass in those movies. She is really good at playing that action hero. Now, there's not a lot of depth in her acting in those things, but yeah, and he keeps going back to the well with her. Whatever he's doing, he's going to make her the lead. And they have obviously that working relationship outside of their, personal stuff.
She does good. I know they're married, but she is very nice to look at, I would say.
So Paul not to watch.
Visually pleasing.
Yeah.
I would say I think what maybe the reason that he got pulled into this was like Mortal Kombat was a huge success. Like,
it was.
They made like 5 times their budget back on that, and like the fact that he got $20 million to make that is actually kind of insane. But that was a big success, and I think probably that's what they were looking for with this. Hoping to kind of capture that magic again, and this was successful. Relatively successful. The budget was $33 million, made 103. So I guess it worked out. But this movie, I had never seen it before. This is my first time watching.
Oh, it was your first time.
This is my first time watching everything, all of these.
Oh, wow.
Goodness.
All right.
So the opening I actually very much enjoyed. I thought it was really interesting. I liked kind of what was happening there. I thought it was pretty tense, and I kind of thought I was going to really enjoy the movie. and then the movie started after that. I don't know. It's just this has a very like clean like aesthetic kind of to it, and it doesn't, at least from what I've played of the games, doesn't really feel like the game itself, and I feel like it feels very kind of like sanitized. I think the highlights of this are exactly what you guys talked about with Mila. Like, everyone remembers like she jumps up the wall up the wall and does that head kick on the zombie, and like she actually did that, and she trained for like months to be able to do that, which is like that's really cool. And I feel like there's moments of stuff that's awesome. I like the dogs.
Yeah.
The
I had
dogs
my
look
dog
great.
going crazy, man. I knew
And
as
they
soon
were-
as my dog
they-
barks at the TV.
And they were real. They were real dogs that they put like blood and stuff on.
I applaud that decision. Maybe not the actual real life blood, but the fact that it was better than the CGI that we had in here. So I'm glad they had normal looking dogs.
Yeah.
Yeah, they look great, and also the sequence with the laser sequence.
Yeah.
and they're trying to move around that. I thought that was really cool. But in between, it's just like no one's really doing a good job acting wise, and I find the story. I think the story is like it just kind of goes exactly how you feel it's going to go. It's just not that
predictable.
interesting. Yeah, which surprised me.
I will say I've always had a soft spot for Michelle Rodriguez, though. She's kind of she always
like
she always plays the same character because she's
Michelle Rodriguez.
yeah. And I really love her. So when I knew that she was
Yeah.
in this movie and for how long she was in this movie, I was very thrilled. I was confused though. I guess spoilers because 23-year-old movie. But I thought maybe they gave her the antidote and it just didn't work on her, which is a bummer. I was like, sweet, my queen is she's saved, and then disappointment.
Well, looking back though, that I'm trying to think, that may have been the first time I saw badass Michelle Rodriguez, and I'm thinking, yeah, she's awesome. Little did I know that I would see the same Michelle Rodriguez for 20 years after that, like in every movie. But she's fun in the movie, I think the clean aesthetic that Dan is talking about is because the entirety of the movie, and I can get on a soapbox about this particular thing, but the entire movie was shot in sound stages, and you can kind of tell. You can tell. I mean, there are no wides. This movie is shot with mids are barely not mids. It's tight because they're on a sound stage, and I respect that they got the movie made, on that lower, and I guess the lower budget is probably why, maybe. But yeah, it does feel a little cleaner than the games do, especially if you go all the way back and just look at clips from Resident Evil 1. They were in this decrepit, torn up mansion that's gritty and gross, but everything is super clean. And I think that's just a lack of production design and sitting on sound stages for every single shot.
I do like what they do with the color. We lose a lot of the grittiness, but I feel like the color grading, it's all that very cool toned. But then Mila's, Alice's red dress just really pops, especially, in those action sequences and whatnot. So they lose the grittiness, but at least, they've got a little something going on there. I remember loving this movie, and then I remember that I was a sophomore in high school when I saw this and it came out, and then I realized my taste in movies has evolved. As far as the opening's fun. However, when they have those the test tubes with the stuff in there, and you got these robotic arms and gloves and all these things, and then it falls. And then I'm like, oh, it goes into the vent. And I'm like, if this is airborne and you guys are these, crazy good scientists, why vents?
That's good. That's a good thought.
Yeah, why would there even be like airflow to that room? We're like,
and that it was flowing. It's through the elevator, through the whole thing.
Yeah, and that elevator sequence was good too. With
I liked it with the blue lighting, and then she opens it, and the light shines on her. That was really, really good. I was like, man, this is gonna be awesome. Well, I'm very shocked that Alice was not part of the game, because you mentioned her red dress. When she put that on, I envisioned characters, people from the game, be like, yes, the red dress, finally, we got her in it.
Yeah.
It looked like a big deal, and then it's just not one. It's just like, let's give our like badass action hero a cool outfit, I guess. And I love how I thought the outfit was going to have to pertain to like her character and what she does. No, it's just a dress, and I was very it was just weird how it was framed.
Just looking badass. Yeah.
As a woman, that kind of dress, the asymmetrical line, that would not work. I would die so fast. The dress would get caught on everything. I would slip, fall, and goner.
Well, you don't have a superpower. I didn't know she had superpowers. Like you said, Dan, like, oh, we've all seen that kick. I was like, okay, normal woman, and then she like just jumps off a wall, and I was like, damn. Which I guess she is still normal if she, trained for months to do that.
We can all do that. It's a normal. It's a normal thing. I wake up, do it in the morning, start my day.
I was like waking up this morning, like, man, I got to do my kick early.
Exactly. Even before coffee. Just go ahead and do it.
Exactly.
Get the day started.
Exactly.
I wonder, like you were talking about the color grading, it just makes me laugh because it is cool tones. It's blue shifted, the color grade. And it's like, did he color grade this movie to match Mila's eyes? Because like her eyes are piercing in the movie. I don't know if you guys noticed this, but I just started laughing about it. There's a scene where they like discover these bodies in the greenish orangey test tubes that the bodies are in. And there's in that scene, Mila has a momentary reaction to it, but then it immediately cuts and it's like that she never fucking saw him. Like, boom, don't care, don't give a damn, over. Like, I just started laughing. I love it when I see a movie like that where it's a cut. Time has not passed, but everybody's emotional investment in the scene is gone. And that happens in this movie, and it kills me.
Yeah, I think they cut a lot out because I also remember seeing where her and then that one guy, I'm trying to think of his name, but the one basically whose sister was a part of it. They're like having that discussion, right? They're there having the discussion about this is my sister. Oh, I'm her informant, all of this. And they're there in the office space, and then it's a cut, and all of a sudden they're running through a door and the zombies are chasing them and they're with the other people. And I was like, whoa, like, what happened in between that? Like, I literally think they got chased out by zombies in that room and they filmed that whole sequence and they're just like, yeah, we'll just take it right out of the movie.
Yeah, that was Matt. I also, this doesn't feel like it should be 100 minutes. Like, I feel like there's a lot of story here to get into, and it's like, I wouldn't call it like convoluted, but there's enough story here to make this could have been 2 hours. I just think like you guys are touching on, it feels like stuff was kind of chopped out of it. I also want to say, just this place being named Raccoon City, it just immediately makes me not take it seriously. I'm sorry. Like, it's just so fucking. They're like doing this serious like narration. He's like Raccoon City. I'm like, what? Like, but I guess that's just what it is.
A big flaw of this for me is, and I know this is from the game, but obviously the Umbrella Corporation, right? That is from the games. That's something they used from the games. You really don't get a whole lot of information on them in this movie. Obviously, this whole thing is happening because of them, but you don't really have a person. I guess it is the guy who was listening to, Alice when she was giving out that information. He's like trying to take her down. But I thought that possibly like the AI, the Red Queen was going to be like some way of a tie-in to like learn more about the Umbrella Corporation, and she's really not. And the daughter thing was like an interesting touch, but I thought the AI and Umbrella was going to be a bigger focus, but it's not. And that's why I think this could have been 2 hours long, just throwing in more of that. And I also didn't get like, I needed someone to die right now, die. They kept on chanting that. I was like, y'all chill. It's all right. But
you can have a little in between. Give us a little meat. That's the thing too, is I think you could create such an interesting story if you do go more into the Umbrella Corporation and, kind of what's going on in this outside world. Why do they have this, and then go more into, the scientists and, make them not incompetent. That would be really cool as well. But yeah, it's if they ever redid it from scratch, which I mean, it's Hollywood. They will at some point, if they ever started over, a 2 hour where we actually get more backstory of what's going on in the world and what this corporation is and why, I feel like it could be done well.
Well, I think it's Hollywood too, because the last movie pretty much was a redo, right? All new
Yeah.
characters and all that stuff, and it
Oh,
wasn't
it
wasn't
was
good.
it was bad. It was so bad.
It was. It was really bad. And to your point, Dan, you're right. It needed to be longer. We needed to have more story, but in retrospect, we would have had to suffer through more Paul W.S. Anderson dialogue, and I don't know if I want that. Just go
Yeah.
ahead and kill some more zombies. It's fine. At least that looks cool in parts.
I think one of my main issues here is like this feels somewhat like Matrix inspired, like in the way that it tries to be more of an action movie. I feel like leaning more into the actual horror, like even the zombies themselves, like sprinting around, like that's kind of a unique style of zombie. That's obviously different from what I think Romero would have had, but like it feels like it doesn't quite know what it wants to do genre wise, but I felt a little bit of like this is just trying to be sort of like a late 90s, early 2000s action movie. And I think like you don't quite feel it's just not that scary. Like, and that's a bad, it's not a critique, but like I wish it had more of like an atmosphere to it where you could kind of get a bit more lost in it, which is how I felt about Silent Hill. I feel like it created a good atmosphere that was actually like unsettling and interesting. And this just feels like it didn't hook me in that way.
I don't like the way they do the zombies in Resident Evil, which sucks because we've seen zombies done so well in other films, and these ones look very hokey and, you know, like something you would get from a haunted house during Halloween. I wish, because of the, you know, this is like a virus that spreads, I wish it would have been more reminiscent of like, you know, 28 Days. Like, you know, those like really rageful, like they're coming for you and they're gonna eat you alive. This felt more, more comedic almost.
Well, and it leans so heavy for such a kind of a, I don't know, maybe a lower budget movie. It leaned really heavy on CGI, and even for the time, even for that era, that CGI was not great.
Some of this stuff looks like it's from a video game, like pulled straight out of a video game into the movie. Like it's like a old PlayStation game. It's bad.
Yeah.
I was like, Steven, you said that this was mostly just filmed on sound stages, which you can tell. And it's funny that we keep on mentioning the fact that this is an action movie. Problem is, yeah, it's a fun action movie. Just sit back, relax, watch it. You know, you should just have a good time. Because I think they're restricted, you cannot have that good of action, right? You cannot move. You cannot have really good setup because everything is so confined. Like I will say the laser sequence is probably the best sequence in the entire film. But besides that, everyone just feels contained and they're just running. And also I think that detracts from like the stakes as well. The fact that our characters are so close to those zombies and they just barely which seems very unrealistic. Obviously it's a movie, but like crawl up on those pipes. And they're just like, zombies are right there and just like trying to get them. I just felt like if that was a bigger atmosphere, like they could do a lot more. And I will say, I'm really a big fan of like Anderson and the rock and roll and the vibes that he's creating. I mean, we just watched Twilight and talked about Twilight. A lot of like emo rock music and that with vampires. I think they go really well together. This action and rock, sure, but it's got to be good action. I just don't think it is.
I think there's a couple of decent scenes. Like we already talked about the kick, you know, and the laser sequence, and I do think this is a movie that exists on that seems so cool. You got to see this thing, and but yeah, I felt like when I was trying to figure out what to say about the vibes, it definitely is a kind of that. It's a rock and roll movie without leaning into the music. It just has those vibes, and that's kind of fun. And I don't like the movie, but I think it's weird. Okay, so his directing does annoy me, but not as much as Zack Snyder's, who also tries to do the rock and roll thing. He's just not as abrasive to me. He's just not talented. Is that bad?
I will say, maybe this kind of lead us into our next movie. It is cool. I mean, I think this era gave in general in film some really good like female action heroes.
Mhm.
And I think that is, I guess, a plus for it. Like she's a badass character, and has I think stayed pretty iconic, even though the movie is not that great. I think she's like
Mhm.
doing so much to try to like carry it. But I think, do you guys want to get into Silent Hill? Because I was going to say, I think in terms of like being a story for women, about women, and I think this movie is actually pretty powerful, and I enjoyed it a good bit.
Yeah, I think it's good to have a female protagonist that can do good things, as far as being a badass and sticking up for herself and not needing she didn't need a man to save her, which is always a nice thing. And I think with Mila doing these kind of action roles, The Fifth Element came out before this, correct?
Yes.
I think
Yes.
that's correct. Yeah.
Yeah. And I feel like maybe that was a good kind of switch into that because she has some acting chops in that realm of film. So
Yeah. You guys want to get into Silent Hill?
yeah.
It's a good spot to transition into Silent Hill, because Silent Hill is interesting because the original script had no male lead actors at all. It wasn't supposed to have any male leads. And because of studio notes, the studio actually insisted that, they bring in a male lead. And you can tell that it was wedged in because
Mhm.
we get the Sean Bean stuff, and it really isn't necessary and has nothing to do with the movie. It's just, okay, we answered your studio note. Now we have a good actor, a beloved actor, doing nonsense. And every time it cuts to his stuff, it detracts from the movie. And it's just there because it had to be. It's annoying.
I could not agree more with that, and that it is bizarre because it does feel like I kept expecting there to be a point to that stuff, and there just really isn't. I mean, I think the ultimate goal is kind of the emotional payoff of the end, but you don't even really need to have him. Maybe you could have given him a minute or two throughout the rest of the movie to know he exists to have that payoff, but like there's no purpose to anything else that's really happening, and it pulls you out of like the atmosphere that's established with everything else that's happening, which is really really effective, I think. But that's a shame, I think, and it's just wasted time in this thing and fluff.
Yeah, and I think it makes it seem almost like two different films because we have this atmospheric, horror, demonic stuff going on, and then it's cut to like this mystery. I'm trying to find my wife and my daughter, so the vibe is the tone goes very back and forth. But yeah, I don't think he was needed. I think they tried to make it more emotional than it really was. Like, oh, I have to find them, and he's going on this mission, but I don't think it added any more depth to what was going on.
Yeah, I like Sean Bean, but I also agree. I did, to be honest, I kind of realized what was happening at the very end when you do see them reach the house and everything like that. Obviously, he cannot see them, so him being included at all made a lot of sense to me when we got to that finale. But yeah, I also didn't get what the police officer's role was in anything because he is, I don't know if because I'm thinking back to it, right? He was there when the child burned to death or
Mhm.
almost burned to death, right? He
Yeah.
carried her body. So, but he hasn't aged at all. So was he also a ghost the entire time? The police officer? How is he still like look the exact same? If that makes sense. Hopefully I'm putting the pieces together right there.
And I think how big of a span is that from when that happened? They said it was like 30 years or something.
Mm-hmm.
My only gauge is like how old the mother looks, right? Because everyone else is dead. Well, the mother's also dead too.
Yeah.
Basically, everyone's dead. So yeah, it's hard to 30 years though. Yeah, that's when the mining accident happened.
Mhm.
Mining accident happened or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I don't understand what that off. Maybe he wasn't speaking to anybody the entire time, Sean Bean, and maybe if that's the case, that would have been actually a really interesting way to tie in tonally his story with the rest of the story. But we don't ever
Yeah.
see that. The police officer just feels like a nonsense character. I have no idea why he's there, even more than Sean Bean.
Yeah.
I would love it if that were the case, but I just think we're just supposed to suspend our disbelief with his age because they give us nothing else. It's just kind of shoddy filmmaking, honestly,
And Botox.
and Botox, exactly.
Dan, did anything in this remind you of Twilight?
No.
Did you, the girl who plays Sharon and Alessa, that is the girl at the end of Eclipse that dies, the actress. Remember, there's that one girl who churns, and then they actually kill her at the very end of Eclipse, which I thought was
Mhm.
actually kind of cool.
Yeah.
That's the same actress.
Oh
Yeah.
wow.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I was like, I know she looked familiar.
I also wanted to say I thought was cool was one of my favorite things about this is, and I talked about how I don't really like how Resident Evil looks and feels. Um, I love the feeling of Silent Hill itself with not only the fog but like the constant like ash that's falling.
Hmm.
And they used Centralia in Pennsylvania as the inspiration there, which is basically was a small town where there was um, like a coal mine fire, and it's literally going to be burning like I think for forever.
Mhm.
And basically the entire population had to leave. I think there's like a couple people that still live there, maybe like 4 or 5.
Crazy.
But it's just I think that's a very kind of spooky premise, but also the concept that a place that was so important to people and represented kind of their livelihood can just be like completely destroyed, and like what that does to a community. Um, but this movie kind of surprised me with how much it actually gets into at the end in terms of like having this cult and like religious extremism. Um, I just feel like it kind of has a lot to say, especially about like women and motherhood and all that. It's kind of complex when you get into it.
Yeah.
But I think I enjoyed that.
I'd rather have something be complex than like especially when you're adapting from a video game, something that's really simple. Like Resident Evil, there was barely any story there, in my opinion. It was just a corporation made zombies. They're trying to get out. So that's about it. But the fact that what is it, like a demon came to Alessa and split her basically personality in two and then dropped off the good personality. I was like, what? I was like, the more they got into, like you said, Dan, there is a whole lot there, but I was really engaged the entire time trying to figure out what was going on because different than Resident Evil, I wanted to really know what this world is about because you not only have one world, you have two. Like you have the fog, but then you have everything besides the fog. And then you have the cult come in. And I was like, that's what I want. Give me more and more. Explain to me. Now, obviously, they have to do exposition scenes in order to get that done. But I mean, I'm glad that they try to stay faithful to the game and put a lot of the game into this.
Yeah, the story has a lot more depth than we saw in Resident Evil for sure. As far as religion and, connections between mothers and daughters, you have one mother that basically gives up her child, and then you have the other one doing anything she can to get her child back. But I like what the movie had to say about kind of how hate spreads. You get to this point where, you've been done wrong and there's all this hate going on, but that hate can really manifest itself. And I think there's a lot to say about how hate can spread just in the world in general.
So it was a funny experience watching this movie because I haven't seen it in a very long time, and I remembered liking the atmosphere and not liking the movie. So I was kind of looking forward to giving it another go. I actually texted Crystal while I was watching. I'm like, I'm enjoying this more than I remember, because the first act is to me is interesting that we're going through story wise, we're going through the mystery the same as Rhoda Mitchell's character as Rose because we don't know. It's just weird shit's happening for the sake of weird shit happening, and we're just kind of working our way through it. And I kind of like that they weren't holding our hand. We're just kind of going through it. But then at the halfway point, bam, they pick up our hand and squeeze it till the blood stops flowing into our fingers because it's nothing but exposition, exposition, exposition. Let's stop the movie and let me just tell you, to the point where in the last act, we stop the movie. Our villain does the best Scooby-Doo or James Bond and just, gives Rose a vision of what the master plan is and everything. And it's like the movie it kind of made me a little bit mad because it became ham-fisted, and it was so cool. We had the atmosphere was on point. Even the CGI is questionable as it is, and again was even at that time. It was fitting the vibes of the story, and I was just with it so much. And then when the actual storytelling started, it's like, damn it, this was so fun until we got there. And I was rooting for it too because I like Rhoda Mitchell. I enjoy her as an actress, and Alice Krige is always creepy as fuck. So there's so many things right about this movie. I don't know if you guys know the director, Christoph Gans. He was after this franchise for many years before he finally got it. And
Big
this
fan
is
of
the
it. Big fan of the games.
yeah, and this is the movie that I was mentioning earlier that really lives and breathes by the source material. Because if you play the game, this one doesn't just give you Easter eggs from the game. This is of an FMV version of the game, pretty much. The way you go through it, what the character interactions are, that it's really all there. And I think that's to its detriment because it has so much heavy lifting to do in the second half that to me it just kind of falls apart. And this is a good director. If you look at Brotherhood of the Wolf, a movie he did before this one, that's one of my favorite werewolf movies of all time. It's just great, so good.
Yeah, I also wanted to say, looking at what else he did, he's also making a new Silent Hill movie, which is in production.
This year is supposed to come out, is the rumor.
This year?
Yeah.
Oh,
That's what
wow.
it's saying right
I
now.
have
I
not heard
mean,
anything.
it just says it doesn't really give a date.
Mhm.
But it just, it's called Return to Silent Hill is what I saw.
Interesting.
I also wanted to say, I thought we were talking about like really cool like women characters. I thought Sybil was Laurie Holden. I thought she was really, really cool, like the police officer. Like I
Yeah.
feel like she's
Favorite part of the movie for me.
almost kind of like steals a little bit of like the attention from Rhoda Mitchell. Not that I mean she was awesome too. I thought she was really, really cool. I was kind of bummed the way she died. I thought that was like I was like,
I
man,
like it. I like how dark this movie got, especially at the end. I'm like, dude, like barbed wire just like just ripping
Yeah.
people like in pieces. Especially her death. That was rough. And I really liked her. And I like how intense that got. And I never felt the feeling that I felt like that. I mean, different tonal movie. Never felt like anything like that Resident Evil. And I actually cared about this character. And I like this character. And then you do get, maybe this is why the police officer's there. You do get that little bit of backstory about her that she found that other kid that was thrown into the pit and like stayed with him for like a few days until they got rescued. So you already like her even more. And then you get that death. Ooh.
See,
Good
I
stuff.
liked her death as well. And the thing that I liked about it is you're expecting them to drop this ladder into the fire, but they hold it right above and you just see her skin just burning until she sets on fire. And if they would have just put her in the fire, it's like, okay, she's going to set on fire. But they give us that space in between where you just know the heat is getting to her and just burning her alive slowly. I felt like it was very effective.
Completely.
it's very-
That's one of the best
very
decisions
twisted.
I've ever seen. That was
Yeah.
like a marshmallow. That was so good.
Yep.
I loved that decision.
I'll think of s'mores differently now.
I think I kind of felt like this movie was already dark enough. Like you have like a kid being sexually assaulted and like all this like darkness and pain, this and that the whole time. Like I just didn't need that personally.
For me, thematically, I think it fit. I think it fit with the overall tone of the movie. But let me ask you something. So ultimately, the devil needed to get Rose into the hospital to execute the master plan. So and this entity is kind of leading her around the town. Could the devil have just led her to the hospital in the first 5 minutes of being in Silent Hill and kind of ended the movie? I mean, why did we go? Right? Why did we go to all these other places? There wasn't a point. I loved that journey. It's the best part of the movie. But looking at it as a whole, it's like, could have done this in 15 minutes. This could have been a short,
Yeah, I think. Go ahead, Stone.
Well, I was gonna say, could you have done that? Because can the devil control what the other parts of like the nighttime sequences are doing?
Well, the nighttime sequences kind of came and went at the behest of the plot. I mean, it was never when you start thinking about the world building, there was no there. It kind of could
It's not
happen.
consistent.
Yeah. And that's why I was thinking about it. I'm like, I should really stop thinking about this from a really deep filmmaking perspective because I'm really messing myself up.
Yeah, I think this is one where like I kind of just settled into it and was like, I'm all right with this ride. I'm not gonna like. I think where this and also Until Dawn gets into some trouble is you have a lot of like. I also wanted to say I think Until Dawn felt a bit like it was ripping off some stuff from this. I felt that way, but I think the struggle is kind of when you get in that territory of like, okay, what here is real, what is not, what's like a psychological manifestation. Like both of these movies, I don't really know, I maybe it doesn't matter, um, but I think this movie is very much centered on like basically this entire thing was created by the severed psyche of this kid because of the trauma they went through.
Hmm.
And also the trauma combined with the trauma of the town. And again, I think Until Dawn movie like literally just tore that entire thing straight from this story. But it does get you to a point where you kind of have to just like not think about it too much in terms of what's what.
It's hard though, right? Because I'm watching the movie, and at the beginning they're told no one goes to Silent Hill because the fumes and the ash will make you sick. But these cult members have been doing all right. They're doing okay. They're not
Wait,
struggling with that.
am I misunderstanding the story? I thought all of them are dead, and they're just
Yeah.
trapped in like some. They're trapped in some purgatory.
Well, and that's the question, and I think that's the problem with this.
Yeah, I said that. That's like the ending got me that right. Is like
Mhm.
the daughter and her die in the car crash. Right,
Mhm.
the ghost like causes them to die, which gets them there, which is exactly what the dark version of Alessa needed to happen. So all of them are dead. So it makes
Yeah.
sense that when the cop and Sean Bean show up, that they can't see anything, nobody is there. So it's like
Hmm.
this weird purgatory where all this is taking place, which I thought was kind of cool. And the fact that because she never was a witch, didn't have all these powers, but the
Yeah.
fact that how much she was done wrong allows a demon to come into her life and say, hey, let's enact revenge on these people who did you wrong, even though they're all dead anyways. Let's torture them even more in purgatory. That's what I'm saying. I think the world, like, I totally agree with you, Stephen, that there's too much exposition, and
Hmm.
I don't know how you could do it without doing exposition. Honestly, there's just so much information you have to give the audience. But I really like the setup for this a ton.
This is clearly a step up from Resident Evil. Even with my complaints about the lack of clarity in some of the storytelling and the overuse of exposition, it's still a better movie than Resident Evil. And
Yeah,
and
and I
I
think
I will watch again because of the vibes. Because the vibes are just awesome.
I think also where it's a step up too. Obviously, I didn't really like the hokey zombies, but in Silent Hill, they have really good creature designs that do stay true to the game. Pyramid Head, that is scary. If that
Yeah.
thing was coming at me, like just take me, just end it now. But even with like, those kind of bodies, where they're burning from within, and you kind of, see that, or the scene with the very large breasted nurses when she's
Sure.
turning the light on and off and they just stop. I felt like the creature design in this was a big step up from Resident Evil for sure.
I was a little worried that those were going to be CGI because we did get to see other CGI like creatures at the very beginning that were like little
Mhm.
bodies, and I was like, I swear
Yeah.
those nurses are CGI, but they weren't. I wanted to tell you guys two things about the movies or the game because I was reading up on the game and how it was adapted that I thought was very interesting. One is that fans of the game were really upset about the Pyramid Head being in this because basically what the director did was he was playing Silent Hill 2 the entire
Hmm.
time,
Mm.
and while he was making this movie. Pyramid Head isn't in Silent Hill. He's in Silent Hill 2. And there's a
Ew.
very big connection between the main character of Silent Hill 2, like his grief and depression, I think stuff like that, that basically Pyramid Head is a personification of that. So by taking the character, ripping the character out of Silent Hill 2 and putting in that, you detract like subtract like everything that made the character special in the game. But then
Yeah.
also, and Dan, I want to pitch this to you because you've talking a lot about the themes of this movie being motherhood. they make a very big change in the game when it comes to the mothers of this film and the gameplay. Is the fact that Dahlia, right? So the mother of Alessa is the cult leader in the game, and she is trying. There is like a demon version of her child. She sacrifices her own kid, and she is trying to get the other version of Alessa to them, right? Which is why they crashed the car, to put the two forms of them together to form some type of god, is what I read. So that is what they change here, is they make a separate cult leader and then make Dahlia her own character, which I didn't know how I felt about that, because she's saved in this film. When everyone is dying, she is saved. And I don't know how I took that, because she was the reason for her daughter's tragic demise. So in a sense, I wanted her to die too, even though she was manipulated by the cult. I don't know. You kill a kid, I want you to die.
Same.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think
That should be the end. Yeah.
the game is also like the game is about a man, Harry,
Yeah.
right? So like they just completely. But I think this works a lot more. I also wanted to say I don't think I agree. I think in terms of what's happening, it's a lot more ambiguous. Maybe like I don't see them as dead, because they still are like physically alive, and they still can die in this world. I feel like they're almost stuck in like a dimension where I feel like they potentially could make their way out, but like if they die, then they actually die. But I feel like you kind of feel like they're in between, but in a place where maybe they could make their way back to the real world, which I think is interesting. And I don't know with this new movie if they're going to be dealing with the same people or he's just telling a new story, but I'd be curious to see what happened after the end of the movie.
Just you saying that makes me curious in the games if, like, because I was kind of guessing, because you never do see their bodies, right? That's the thing. If you don't see someone dead, then they're might not be dead. So that does make sense that they possibly could be in another dimension. I'm very curious about the games then, if this is the way it also ended in the very first game, of them still kind of in the Silent Hill fog. If they ever do get out of that, that makes me really interested for that, to play the game.
And see,
maybe.
that gets to my point, is I think both of you guys could be right, and I like ambiguity in storytelling. I just like that a movie can give you conversation after, but I think this is happening because the script needed another pass. I don't feel like it was as purposeful as we'd like to believe it is. I think it's just, it needed a little cleanup in its writing. I did want to mention one other thing though that I love about the movie is one of the great things about the Silent Hill games, period, is the music. The music in those games is awesome. And they made a great decision in taking the music from the games and using it in this movie. They just had the original composer come in and do remixes. And it's so effective. And it does such a good job at giving this sort of unique vibe. It doesn't go the way we would normally expect musically from a movie in that era. It's very different. And in this new viewing, I still just love it. I think it's really good.
Yeah, I'm looking at the game. Apparently, there's 5 different endings, kind of similar to Until Dawn, where based on your decisions, like it can go well or it can go poorly. But there's 5 different ways that the first game can actually end.
Oh, I don't know if I played the first one all the way through. I did play the second one. Silent Hill 2 is, one of the all-time great horror movie games. And I'm currently replaying it. They've done an update, and I'm playing it again on the PS5 very slowly because I'm very casual.
So they just remade one Silent Hill, correct?
Yeah.
That's the thing, is I've never played any of the Silent Hill, so obviously I'm not going to fire up, I don't know what, an Xbox or an original PlayStation and play it. So I'm really excited to do that. That's why I love these remasters.
Mm-hmm.
I think I just got I have Dead Space over here, and I'm playing Dead Space, which that should be adapted. That is one of the scariest games I've ever played. I would really enjoy that, but
Well, that's really funny because we're talking about Romero trying to do Resident Evil. Carpenter's been trying to do Dead Space, and for
I
some
think
reason,
Carpenter would nail that.
yeah, I'm like, why? This is a no-brainer. Just give him the fucking game because he loves playing the game, and this guy knows how to do scary. And he needs someone to give him something because the stuff he's been writing on his own the last 20 years has not been great. And that breaks my heart to say that because you know how I love Halloween, but it's the truth.
Do you guys have any closing thoughts on this before we get into our next movie?
I should have mentioned it when we were talking about Resident Evil, but a quick little insert here. I talked about it in a video not too long ago, but they are doing another Resident Evil movie with Zach Kreger from Barbarian, and then also he's going to have Weapons this year. So I'm really interested to see what that's going to be, especially if Weapons is very good. There's like a rumor that it's a horror movie about a Pied Piper, which is kind of sick, like calling children.
With children,
Kinda cool.
yeah. I'm
So-
excited for Weapons.
Yeah, having Resident Evil just have a director like that could bring very interesting things to it. I know we're talking about Silent Hill, but I just wanted to, I just remember that and looked at it. So
Nice.
Yeah, it's cool. We're getting new stuff from both of these this year, or Resident Evil isn't this year, but whatever. Next
Yeah.
year.
2026. They're so on Zach Kreger, man. They did like a bidding war for this Weapons movie, and then they also did a bidding war for Resident Evil. Like the studios love him, and they I mean, I talked about it a little bit, but basically they pushed. Weapons was supposed to be a January release, right? Dumpuary, but then they changed that, and they are releasing it in August, and they moved back. Paul Thomas Anderson, One Battle After Another. They moved back his movie and put Weapons in that place. I'm like, damn, y'all got a lot of confidence in this. So horror fan, like I'm really excited for it. So I hope it's really good. And they're trying to do like the long legs marketing, which I don't know. I feel like I need some time when it comes to like horror movie marketing. I mean, we're talking about horror stuff. And you're trying to do all that, go to this website and then you click this link, but then another link pops up on the bottom. I need like one of those every like 6 years. Having one every single year, it's just like some of the magic's gone for that for me.
I kind of see where you're going with that, but at the same time, give me more of that than just constantly giving me trailers that tell me the entire film.
That's true.
You know?
Yeah. I'd rather have it more interactive because Speak No Evil last year, the amount of times I saw that trailer drove me crazy. But we're going to see more interactive marketing. Even when at South by Southwest, we saw Together. And that one, they were passing out these missing person flyers, and it's the middle of the night. And it was me and Brandon Talks Movies. We're here like, oh, but the people passing them out made it seem like these are really missing people. Like, oh, our friends are missing. Can you take a look at this? And we're just like, this has got to be marketing. So what does everyone in line do? We call the number, listen to the thing, and then we go watch the movie. So it was fun at the time.
Did you guys watch Good Boy?
No,
I
I didn't get to see it.
I hear it's so good.
I would say I got to watch. It was cool. I went to my very first film festival. I told Dan about this, but I went to the Florida Film Festival, and they had like a secret midnight screening of a film. And everyone thought it was Together because last year at the Florida Film Festival they did Cuckoo. So they're like, oh,
Yeah.
Neon. People have seen Together already, so that's what we were all hoping for. But it was Good Boy, and it was cool because the director wasn't there, but he had like a video because it's I think it's the director acting in it and his dog. So literally they're just like, hey guys, thanks for checking out our movie. Hope you like it and everything. But I thought it was solid.
That's awesome.
I heard good things.
Mm-hmm.
What'd you give that, Stone?
2.5. So I just there's one thing I can't overlook. I think there's a lot of ADR in it because the dog is getting commands. The dog is acting a lot, but I also think the dog is getting commands while it's acting. But there's someone talking to it in the movie, and I can't overlook the fact that the audio sounds very strange when the man is talking.
Well, hopefully,
Personal thing.
I hope that means maybe it's not complete because that does happen at festivals. Maybe they'll clean that up before it goes wide. I hope.
Yeah.
That is one of the things I love about watching the original Cujo, though. I mean, we have done some really fun drinking games. Every time Cujo is mad and about to kill somebody, but his tail is wagging, drink. And you will pass out by the end of that movie. It's very fun.
Hey, dogs' tails can be wagging when they're angry too. That's like
I know, but you could see the happy butt shake, and that's what's going on with Cujo.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, we can start
dogs.
Oh yeah. Oh, good segue, Dan. That's usually
Good
me.
job,
I'm usually the
Dan.
segue guy.
Nice.
I honestly thought about it. I was gonna say, speaking of good boys, Dan, do you want to? I was just gonna call Dan a good boy. I don't know.
You are a good boy, Dan.
Thank God we did the other segment.
Dan, I pitched this movie. This is my brother who recommended this movie to me. He's like, it's pretty good. And I just literally just looked up horror video game adaptations, right? And I saw Werewolves Within, and my brother watched it recently. He's like, yeah, I think it was a fine time. And it's crazy because I didn't even realize this was Josh Rubin who directed Heart Eyes earlier this year. And I know that Dan and me kind of really enjoyed that. I think we both gave it a 3.5 stars. But I was looking
Same.
into what this movie is based on the game. Do you know how the gameplay is for this?
I watched a little bit, and it seems almost like kind of like RPG. You know, you have these other characters, you're talking, and it didn't seem very actiony like you get from a horror game usually. It seems like a very different type.
So what it is, from what I read, is this is a VR game that is
Mhm.
basically Mafia. And you're supposed to guess who the werewolf is in your group.
So here's what it is, and I have a very weird, or not weird, I guess, but interesting experience with this game. There is a card game. You mentioned Mafia, but this is before Mafia. It's called Are You a Werewolf? And it's basically that. It's a social game where everybody plays a character that you don't know who the wolf is, the werewolf that's killing people in the village. You're either a villager or you're the werewolf, and you have to, through social interaction, figure out who the werewolf is. If not, the werewolf's going to kill everybody, and that's it. And I just think that's really interesting that it went from that to video game, and then from video game to movie. And I can see the card game in the movie, and I loved it. Honestly,
Yeah,
I loved seeing that.
When I read that, I was like, oh, that kind of makes sense because I do think they translated that very well to the film, where I was trying to guess the entire time who the werewolf was, if there was a werewolf, and that kept me really engaged throughout the entire thing. The one thing that stood out to me the most about Werewolves Within, and also when it came to Hard Eyes, is I think Josh Rubin. Now, I said this in my review. I think his nighttime scenes looked like shit. I thought Hard Eyes visually looked horrible when it was outside and it was nighttime, and it's the same thing here. So hopefully he gets. I don't know if that's like the cinematographer or like the direction. I just hope that whatever he's doing next, because I think Hard Eyes was pretty successful. Whatever he does next, I hope that's fixed because that's just a personal issue with me. But I think he does a very good job at directing actors, and especially when it comes to chemistry, because that is the one thing that stood out to me the most about Hard Eyes was the fact that I thought Olivia Holt and Mason Gooding had good chemistry together. I thought their banter, I thought their jokes really fit and felt natural, and that's the same thing here. I really adore Sam Richardson. I think he's a lovable guy. He seems like the nicest dude in the world, which is his character, which totally fits. And then also Milana Vayntrub, I think is how you say her last name. I know her as the AT&T girl, but she's, I mean, I'm a guy. She's very cute. And them interacting with each other really fit the tone of the movie. I thought a lot of the jokes landed. The one joke that I rewound a couple times that I thought was very funny is when that one guy who he's from Severance, Michael Chernus. He's an actor in Severance, but when he salutes and Sam's like, no, never the left. He goes, never the left, my type of guy. He's like, no, that's not what I meant. I thought that was pretty good. But yeah, I think there's too many. The one thing I'll say though is I don't think all the characters work, and I think there's too many people. And if they cut down 2 or 3 or 4 of them, I think this really could have worked. Also, last thing I'll add here, because I guess this was my recommendation, so I'm giving my thoughts first. But there is something interesting here when it comes to environmentalism. The fact that this like oil company, or they're trying to drill for a pipe, stuff like that, and the fact that this is a werewolf story. I thought maybe they could tie that in with like nature and put the 2 and 2 together and actually come out with a pretty good narrative with an interesting message. But it seems like everything with the drilling in the pipe is more for just like a plot point rather than really anything to say at all. And that kind of left me disappointed because I thought it was kind of a layup that they just ignored.
Yeah, I also thought that the entire storyline with that to me just felt so cliched. And I think cliche is like how so much of this feels. Like I feel like all these characters just kind of feel like very tropey. I kind of thought I would like this more than I did, but I don't think this script is very good. I think there's some moments that are like kind of funny, but I think a lot of the jokes are like really grating. I think it feels really heavy-handed in general. And I honestly thought a lot of it was just kind of annoying, which is a shame. I did like Sam Richardson. But like, even, I mean, can we spoil this or no? Yeah. So like
Spoil it.
the twist,
Do
I
it.
mean, I think it's solid, but I think the way that like Cecily is like throwing herself at him immediately felt so odd to me. Like that didn't make sense at all. So when it got to the twist, I was like, okay, yeah, I mean, I guess that makes sense because this was so odd. But I don't know. I thought this was very fine.
Oh, see, I actually enjoyed this a lot. I knew nothing about it, and we're talking about horror video games, so I'm thinking, oh, like scary horror. I love a dark comedy horror, just like Heart Eyes, and it is very tropey, but I kind of loved that about it. Same thing with Heart Eyes. I feel like they literally took every cliche trope from a slasher and then from a rom-com, and they just threw them together, picked them out of a hat, and that is what we got in Heart Eyes. And I think there is a lot of tropes in here, but I think they're also kind of hilarious. I live in Vegas now, but I grew up in a tiny town in Montana. So this small town aspect of all these personalities, some of them we didn't need. I don't think we needed all of these characters, but it's a whodunit style, so it is what we got. But just living in a small town, things like environmentalism, it really does have a big effect. The town I live in, we actually lived where Lewis and Clark Trail, where they went through. So it's cool to be from a small town and have nature. I lived outside of Yellowstone. But small town dynamics are something. My principal was also my mailman. So we had one stop sign, and you do kind of, even though it seems cliche, you get those kind of personalities because literally everyone knows each other. Everyone is in everyone's business. And a lot of the times people in those towns, like you don't leave. You stay. And I feel like we kind of got that with some of these characters, the people that have been there a long time, and then the people, that are new to the town, and you kind of suspect people. You want to get to know, the juice and the gossip. So I kind of liked the hokiness of this small town and the people in it.
Yeah, and more so even like the people themselves, more so just like I'm kind of tired of like oh, I'm from the city and I'm different than you, and I'm here in this backward small town where like, everyone is just exactly the same, and they're like right wing and I'm left wing, and will we get it's just like, okay, like maybe I'm kind of burnt out by the country in general right now, but like I just can't see that anymore.
We're all burnt out.
Yeah. I had a good time with this movie. I'm not saying anything that you said is incorrect, Dan, but I feel like the movie knows those things to me. Like Hard Eyes, it knows what it's doing, and you can vibe with it or not. And I think not vibing with it, I get it. But for me, like I thought of Clue. It reminds me of Clue in that way, where especially the way this movie is shot is so funny to me. There's so many instances, and these particular instances I'm talking about reminded me of old Abbott and Costello movies too, like the scary movies from like the 40s. Because we'll set the camera up on a tripod, hit record, and then everybody's going to run in, do your line, and run back out, in and out, in and out. And I just think that's so funny. Like, it was cracking me up just watching it happen. I'm going to come in, make my joke, and I'm going to step out so that there's room for the next character to come in and get in the shot and still be in focus. And it happens over and over and over again. It just completely has to be purposeful. And so many things like that I enjoyed. Now, I do wish the environmentalism part was slightly more prevalent. I do wish that, because the opportunity, like you said, is there. But at the same time, this is just a very surfacey, funny little movie. The sort of attempt at the romance does happen really quick. And at first, when it was happening, it bothered me. But then when I saw the campiness of the entire movie, I just kind of thought, well, okay, we're just rocking with this. Then that's what we're doing. And I laughed a lot in the movie. And when I was talking earlier about how I think it's better to have a game that just has a small gimmick and you build your story around it, this is the movie I was thinking of. Because the Werewolf in and of itself is a simple little game. And what I loved is you're watching this movie for being a movie. And then there's that scene where they're all in a room together, sitting in a circle and yelling at each other about who's the werewolf. I'm like, oh shit, here's the game. Here it is. It's happening right now. And if you've never played the game, you'd never know, because it feels organic to the movie. But if you do know, it's kind of like that, oh, we're the in crowd. We know the game, so here it is for like 5 minutes of the actual movie, and I love that. I had a great time with it.
Like it's channeling the spirit of what the game actually is, but then it's able to like do something more, but in a way that like the game in and of itself is so simple that it gives you that freedom. I think that's
exactly,
and it's a fun game too, so it makes sense to make this more of a comedy rather than trying to make it serious at all. And they know what it's supposed to be. And then also, I was thinking about the fact if this movie is successful or not, and I want to ask Dan this because obviously he's the one that didn't like this the most or the least out of all of us. Did you know who the werewolf was?
No.
Like pretty good. Pretty good. They did pretty good.
Yeah. The other problem though is I didn't really care. Like,
man.
What I would say is like, I mean, Josh Rubin is like a really young director still, and he made this when he was like in his late 30s, and I think like I liked Hard Eyes a lot. To me, Hard Eyes was way more self-aware and making fun of itself and making fun of the genre and how stupid it is. I felt like this movie's still like there's an implied suicide. Like this movie's still pretty dark in a lot of ways, and I just think it didn't quite have that same level of awareness. But obviously, still like very goofy and light. But I think he's the director where like, especially after seeing Hard Eyes, I'll follow him around and see what he does next. I think it's, this is definitely a fun movie. I think it's, for streaming, this is better than, a large majority of what you can stream these days. I think it's definitely a step up there. And I did like Sam Richardson in this. He's a little like, he also just kind of pissed me off as a character. Like he's so like wishy-washy and
was he too nice?
I mean, come on, man.
I didn't get that plot point either because that's like I didn't realize that's what we're trying to focus on. And at the very end, he has this big speech. He was, I am nice, and I'm not ashamed of it. And I was like, bro, just calm down. I didn't get that they were trying to like circle that back around. Like, is that why his girlfriend broke up with him? Like, they really didn't hammer that home when it originally happened. Like, that was the reason why. And I thought maybe if they did that, then it would make sense for him to give that big speech at the end. But they didn't do that. He didn't even know that she broke up with him. He doesn't even know why that's happening in the first place. So it doesn't make sense to me that he's giving that speech at all.
They do give little nice guys things here and there, like with the Mr. Rogers, the little thing when he's, talking to the guy and being a good neighbor. He's definitely, I think they pushed him into the maybe too nice throughout. And even when he was giving the nice guy speech at the end, he says like, something like, oh, fucking, oh, pardon my French, freaking like.
I will say I did enjoy, is it Emerson Flint? Is he who plays the woodsman who ends up fighting with the werewolf at the end?
I don't know.
I enjoyed his character. Do you know what I'm talking about, Stone?
Yeah, his name's Glenn Fleshler.
Yeah.
Is the actor.
I thought that he was kind of
you know who he is, Dan? He's that he's the in Joker how you have like the big guy and the small guy who are like friends with the Joker. He's the bigger guy from that movie.
Gotcha.
That's the actor in the film.
Yeah,
I will say
he was in Boardwalk Empire too. That's funny.
I want to say just because I've always been a big fan of him. I just love whenever his shtick might be getting a little bit old because he kind of does play like the same lovable, adorable person all the time. But I really like Harvey Guillen. I think that's how you pronounce his last name. But I'm a big fan of What We Do in the Shadows, and that's kind of where he got his big that's where everyone fell in love with him. And I know that show just ended, but we just saw him in Companion. He was also in Companion as well, and I think he's just such a likable, memorable presence that we're going to see him for a really long time. He's also going to be in The Life of Chuck later this year, so we're really excited about that. But I'm also really excited about that movie. I don't think they know how to go ahead.
Market it. I think they don't want to give anything away. That's what it feels like, and they just want you to just kind of go in, which I actually don't mind. I like if it's more of like a general, but it's tough to, and it's a weird. It's adapted from like a short story, like a Stephen King short story that's like part of like an anthology, I think. So like I'm excited to just go in, but yeah, Harvey Guillen was good in this.
All right. Dan is definitely the werewolf in this conversation, I would say.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah,
And-
absolutely.
absolutely, 100%.
Yep.
Yeah, and
Yep.
I didn't hate this movie. Like, I would encourage people to watch it. It's just like a fine movie to me. It's like, I don't know.
What about Until Dawn? Was that a fine movie for you?
No, it was not.
But yeah. Oh, by the way, this is on Shudder. If anybody wants to check out Werewolves Within, this is where I watched it. It was on Shudder or AMC
Yeah,
Plus,
same.
whatever that was.
Yeah.
Until Dawn in theaters.
Let's pretend it's
This is the so Chris, have you played this game?
I haven't played the game, and I think I'm the one of you that I probably like this movie more than most. It's not a good movie, but there are things that I like.
Steven, have you played the game?
I have not played the game. No.
Okay. This is where I can give my insight in. So just to be honest, I was going to play the entire game this week and I didn't find the time to, but I played like 3 or 4 or 5 hours of it. And I also, when I was younger, I watched a lot of playthroughs of the game because the thing about Until Dawn is it's kind of like a movie. It's very cinematic. I mean, you have Hayden Panettiere is the main like actor of the game, and then you also have Rami Malek, which is also in the game, as well as Jordan Fisher, which is a big Broadway star and was on Disney Channel growing up my age. So a lot of big actors who are playing themselves look like themselves. And the thing about Until Dawn that made it special was they had this thing called the butterfly effect. Now, basically, and we talked about it, or Dan hinted at it a little bit when it came to, I think he said Resident Evil, or no, Silent Hill. But basically, this game has hundreds of endings. And the cool thing about the mechanics of it is throughout the entire thing, you are choosing, do I want to lie to this person? Do I not want to lie to this person? Do I want to open up this door? Do I not want to open up this door? And based on that, a butterfly effect happens. And it's crazy that you can get a storyline where all 8 characters survive. There's 8 characters in the game, or all 8 characters die. And the only way you can see and alter it is if you restart the game. You can't like trick it and like try to kill yourself and go back in time and redo it. No, there's fail safes in that to make sure that doesn't happen. So the fact that this movie doesn't try to do that, and I don't know how they could. The one thing I think about is Bandersnatch, obviously, but that's Netflix.
Yeah.
You can't do a Bandersnatch thing in a theatrical film. So I don't know how they would have taken that butterfly effect, that uniqueness of the game, and brought it over to a theatrical film, because the whole restarting the day, that's not part of the game. It all takes place in one day. And the Until Dawn part is a lot more practical in the game. Basically, there's like they're all in this lodge, this like snow cabin lodge that kind of reminds you of the hotel in The Shining. They're all trapped there, and they can't get out. You thought I was going to say what?
Hateful Eight.
No. And basically, they're all trapped there because there's a snowstorm that happens. Very reminiscent of. Oh yeah, the Hateful Eight. Yeah, exactly. But then there's another one too that I was thinking of. Oh, Werewolves Within. They can't leave because there's literally a snowstorm. Same thing. So I think they call a rescue party and they're like, "Hey, we can't get there until dawn," so they have to survive the night. And what's really cool about it, I mean, I can just spoil the game, and I think this is a lot better, is that these friends, the movie kind of has this little bit of aspect in it, but a year earlier, right, her sister went missing. Well, there's 8 characters in the game. There were 10 characters in the game. A year previous, all 10 of those people went to the cabin, and they were hanging out, but one girl or one group of friends played a prank on the other, someone else that was there, and 2 people died as a result of it. Then fast forward, they were sisters. Fast forward, and this is not spoiling the game or anything, because that's right at the beginning. Fast forward, and now they're all meeting up, and their brother, whose sister's passed away, said, "Guys, this means a lot to me if you can come, and we can hang out at this cabin again, you know, just to give me some closure." Like I said, it's like a lodge, not a cabin. It's very, very large, which adds to the creepy element of the game as well. But yeah, and then stuff happens, and like I said, some characters can die, some characters cannot die. And one thing I really missed about the game that's not in the movie is maybe 8 characters would have been too many, because in this, we really only have 5. but there's so many like different relationships, and it's really cool because when you fast forward a year, there was one girl who was dating one guy, and now fast forward a year, that they're broken up, but they still go back to the cabin, and now she's dating someone else, and now he's interested in someone else. They act like college kids, and basically they all just want to fuck each other, but they're all like backstabbing and they act immature, and it's really interesting and it's cool as like a game players. Like there's this part like in the game so far that I've been playing is these two are broken up, but you're another character and you see through these binoculars that they're hugging. And then all of a sudden, the girl who just hugged this other guy that she's broken up with, her boyfriend walks up. And you have the decision on whether or not you tell her boyfriend, like, look through the thing and you can see that they're interacting with each other, or you can not do that. So the fact that there's so many relationships, I think really adds to the story as well. But yeah, the movie, I feel like we've all seen this before. Like, I mean, a lot of people are comparing it to Happy Death Day. And the two movies that I thought of was Happy Death Day and The Cabin in the Woods. With like, ooh, there's like there's different monsters and they're coming to get you and they're going to kill you and stuff like that. I guess let me just say the one big issue of this movie for me, and then I'll pitch it to you guys. They fast forward. There's a little moment in this movie where they go, nah, they probably wouldn't want to see all the interesting stuff. Let's just put it on an iPhone, and you can see it through an iPhone for 45 seconds. The coolest part in the trailer is when some girl had something in her cheek. I'm like, that'll be interesting. I wonder how that day is going to plan out. Well, too fucking bad. You don't get to see it. You get to see 20 seconds of it. That's all you get to see. It seems like this just gave up. And it's so funny to me. I remember this moment after the third day where, I mean, I guess it was 13 days. But anyways, they're like, guys, we've tried everything. We cannot get out of here. I'm like, you really haven't. I've seen your days. You haven't tried everything. You can do a lot more. And it's so funny because this is not Until Dawn, right? They get Until Dawn. There's nothing that they learn in the reverse hourglass process of being trapped there. There's nothing that they learn that helps them in their escape. They just escape. They just go a different way and they get out. And it feels pointless. The whole thing feels pointless. It feels like a gimmick to hook you. And I don't even think that the creatures, or there's one moment where it's like kind of the mist where you have like a, I don't even know how this partakes to the movies, where there's like this Goliath guy in the street for a split second. And it's never addressed at all. I was like, what the fuck was that? I get the Wendigos.
Crystal, that's exactly what he said. He's like, oh, there's the Iron Giant.
Yep.
What the fuck is that?
But yeah, I just think it's stupid that they're trying to make this gimmick about like the days are restarting and everything, and then it adds nothing to the story. It's only to try to make it entertaining. The characters learn nothing from it. The characters are nothing in this movie. They're nothing.
And I don't think it's they gave up. I think it's most likely they had $15 million, and having a thing crawling around someone's face costs money. So they're like, we have 10 seconds of that. Here you go. But yeah, this is like, and I want to make a video about it, but like, this is a waste of people's time and money, in my opinion. Like, and from what I can tell, people that are fans of the game are like getting really pissed off by this, which is like, again, like we talked about at the beginning, it's like worst case scenario, like upsetting your fans. This guy is like David Sandberg. He directed like the Shazam movies.
Lights Out.
Lights Out. And one of the Annabelles.
So this is.
You guys like Lights Out? I haven't watched that in a long time.
The short film is good. The short film's good. The feature length is not.
Okay.
But I'm struggling to see, and like I think, I mean, when you think about time loop movies, they obviously can be well done. They've obviously been done many times. This movie like is aware, like the guy literally goes, "Oh, it's one of those movies where we do the same stuff again." It's like that. But I think like a best case scenario for a time loop movie is Edge of Tomorrow, right? Because like there's so much going on, and obviously that's like a big budget action movie. It's different. You can do more, but like they are learning day by day how to navigate each scenario and how to progress. And you feel like you're building up to something. You're not just having seemingly random experiences where there is no plan. And there's no growth from like a personal standpoint, and there's no growth from the standpoint of like developing the way through this. It's just, you're just waiting around for the movie to end. Like, you're waiting around for them to get to the solution. And I think, you know, I guess we're spoiling this. I don't know if anyone's gonna really care, but like when you get to the end, it's just like what happened? Why did we make this? Why did we watch this? Like, there's to not kill anyone in this movie. It to me is insane. Like, and I don't even know who you would have killed off to have an emotional reaction from the audience. I don't care. I literally don't know. When the movie ended, and I was like, I can't name 3 of these characters. Like, I can't tell you their fucking names. Like, I can name 2 of them, but like, can you tell me anything about these people? Who are you supposed to like here? Which of them are you supposed to like? Like, I don't understand. If I was them, first of all, the dude that was the 3-month boyfriend that isn't friends with them, kill that guy. Just, he's the sacrifice. Keep it moving. The guy was a complete asshole. Like,
He felt like the obvious choice. He was the one that you expected.
He was a tool.
Yeah, and like, he has no. Like, and she literally kills him. She literally
that was crazy.
Like, first, I don't really know what the hell that scene actually was. It was very odd, but yeah, I mean, it seems like he should have been drawing the short stick here.
Yeah,
but I just was struggling to see. And I think if you wanted to just have like different representations of like different horror genres, you could have like gone full out and like created a unique aesthetic for each day, and like that could have been at least cool
That would have been really cool.
experience.
Good idea.
But it like wants to do that and then just doesn't actually do that. You just get a
It feels
guy,
like money. That feels like a
big
money
guy
problem
with a
too.
mask and Wendigos. So, and the Iron Giant in the woods.
and the Iron Giant.
I don't know. Not for me.
The story is not good. The dialogue is not good. The characters are not good. It's just it makes these rules and then breaks them. Like in the beginning, they're like, "Oh, we'll just reset and try again. Oh, let's just end it and try again." And then, like Stone said, we cut all the way, and they're like, "Why can't we remember anything?" And it's like, I don't know why you can't remember anything, because the first few times, you're trying to reset to learn new things. And then when was he recording every single time? We don't really see much of that until the end when he's like, "Oh, actually, I recorded every single time." You're like, "Oh, that's nice to know. That's convenient." But yeah, the characters, I feel like they give us a little bit. They try to give us a little bit with Clover, the main character, at the end with her sister. She's leaving. Obviously, we know she has mental health issues and kind of leaving, her life, basically. She's kind of afraid. So they give her a little bit, but really you don't care about her. I do like the girl that is psychic, only because I think it gave a little something where she's kind of that quirky character where she's like, "I feel the energy," and they had a little bit of that, but the characters are they're very unlikable. The thing that I liked about Until Dawn, I think going through it, I kept thinking, "Oh, this would be a fun film to make from like a filmmaking perspective, as far as the sound design and the set design, costumes, effects, acting. How am I going to die today?" Like from a filmmaking perspective, I think that's what I thought throughout. Like, oh, this would actually be fun to film. Maybe not as much to watch. I do like some of the kills. It was more gore than I thought we were going to get for this type of movie. And then also, I saw this at a Cinemark. I don't know if you guys have ever sat in the D-box seats. They're big, comfy recliners, but you can up the setting and it shakes with the movie. So that really did kind of amp it for me because I'm naturally a scaredy cat. So having my whole entire chair shake throughout this whole movie kind of built up the anticipation. One scene I did love in this, and it's the scene with the water when they're in the bathroom. I didn't expect them to die that way. So I feel like they had some things in here that I was able to grasp onto. Would I watch it again? Probably not, because the story and the characters definitely kill it. But I think if you're like someone that just is a casual movie horror goer, I think there are people that will like this for, the gores and the kills and kind of seeing the different ways that it plays out.
So for me, the first half of the movie, I was I was mostly enjoying because the kills are pretty fun. They're pretty good. And like you said, the water scene was hilarious. And the fact that we have nothing except bullet pointed information about these characters is kind of okay. I was thinking about it in terms of something like Friday the 13th, which is a movie that many people love. And it's the same. You get very little on the characters and stuff, but it's about sort of the kills. It's about that sort of, roller coastery fun of the kills. But then the problem with this movie is that halfway through, it just stops doing that. Like halfway through the movie, the kills are over. And like I think one of you guys already said it, that they cut those days out of seeing more of the kills, and we go to it actually trying to tell us a story. And that's when the movie fucking falls apart the worst, is because the story doesn't work. The world building isn't consistent. And Crystal, you said it, the rules are not followed. That will tear me out of a movie right away. I will go along with any set of rules you create for your movie. But if you just stop following them out of plot convenience, that pulls me out of the movie. And I didn't care about any of the characters. The psychic character, there's one scene in particular with her that's like, one of the things that we should try to do is get in the car and drive the fuck out of this town. She's like, no, it won't work. And everybody's like, oh, okay. Like, what the fuck? What do you mean? Oh, okay. Try it. What's the worst that could happen?
The movie ends. That's the worst thing.
Yeah, that just set me off. I'm watching the movie. I'm like, fuck you, movie. That's exactly what I said. I'm like, this is stupid. It's stupid. It pissed me off. Because they're going to keep dying day after day anyway. Why wouldn't you just get in the car and at least make an attempt? And that goes into the whole part you guys are talking about. There was nothing learned. There was nothing gained. When you're watching Happy Death Day, she's offing herself every day, but she's learning something new. She's putting the pieces together. And that sort of plot device of the reoccurring, you come back to life, all that stuff, it kind of takes away the stakes a little bit. And I know there's this whole in the movie, they only lasted 13 days, but then I just feel like the stakes are so soft. Like, however you die, it could be a cool death, but you're going to be back tomorrow and it's going to continue. I feel like I'm kind of over the Groundhog Day thing. I think it's been played out too much. I didn't know that was in this movie, and I kind of wish I had, because my expectations would have been set a little differently, because I just feel like we've done it to death.
No pun.
Also, yeah, exactly. And I love the sort of empty, dead town aesthetic. We've been talking about that through all of these movies, but we don't get very much of it. In this movie, you get like two houses, basically one. You don't get the rest of it.
It's like growing as the nights progress. Like they can see more and more, but like I wanted to see more of that. Like
exactly.
Well, too bad they skipped all those nights where you could have seen more of it.
Exactly. I think there is probably room for this movie in sort of the junkie horror movie space on a movie night, because the kills are pretty fun. It's just I feel like I would watch the first half of the movie again for those funny moments and then dip, because once the story starts trying to be told, I didn't care. I think I gave it a 2 out of 5 is where I put it.
What did you guys think about the big bad, like the bad guy in this with the doctor and the?
What is he doing?
I
what is
hated
his
it.
plan?
Yeah.
What is he? He's like a guest.
And how is he doing it?
Like fear scientist by night. Like what is his deal? Like
So something that's cool is Peter Stormare is actually the only actor in this that's from the game. So he's actually in the game. He plays the psychiatrist of Rami Malek, who's trying to get over his sisters who have died. So he's a doctor in the game. So they kind of recast him as a doctor in this, which is also really funny. Just thinking about at the very end. I don't know if you saw this, but you could see like it's kind of stupid because they set up like this is like a prequel possibly for the Until Dawn game, because you see the cabin at the end, the snowy cabin. That's also a thing too that this movie is missing that the original one had. I know we just talked about Werewolves Within, but the snowy element of it adds so much. And the fact that that's not in here, I think it's just a huge loss for the film.
Well,
I don't think
instead, I guess, but like
stupid. But that's the thing though, is that we don't know what this world is, what this house is. It's just some supernatural thing. What I like about the original like game is that it's in the real world. Like there's Wendigos. Basically, they use the mining incident. There is a mining incident just like this, but it's different. In this, the Wendigos, you're turned into a Wendigo the more and more mad you get and crazy and lose sense of reality. You turn into a Wendigo. That's not what happened in the game. What happened in the game is that miners got trapped and they ate each other. And because they ate each other, they induce like this Wendigo spirit that then possesses them and turns them into Wendigos, which I think is way cooler. But I don't get what the Doctor is trying to do in this movie, because it seems like, obviously, with our lead character Clover, I do know one. That's the only character's name I know, Clover.
The only
that
one. Yep.
She has some mental health issues. She's tried to take her life multiple times. He seems to insinuate that you are given certain challenges in this area, in this supernatural realm, based on your personal problems. And he's like, oh, you've seen this person. Everyone knows the slasher, right? Everyone's had that problem in their lives, but you got to see something else. And I was like, I wish we got to see that stuff, right? And I also think he mentions, I think he mentions like a Wendigo, and I'm like, everyone's seen a Wendigo or something like that. So I'm like, I don't think what you're trying to do, this experiment, makes any sense whatever. And like I said, we skipped all the experiment. So you're trying to have this big impactful moment with some monologue. We didn't see any of it. Whatever you're trying to do here doesn't matter, because
that pissed me off so badly, because that moment to me felt like the movie trying to be like, oh, look at all this smart stuff we did. This is all allegory. It's like, holy fuck, please stop talking. Like that scene where I literally dropped the movie like half a star. I was like, please just stop it.
Make it in.
I also think, Stone, to go to what you're talking about, like the Wendigo is like the indigenous myth, like that's exactly what it is. It's like basically it's I think it always comes from cannibalism, and when you engage in cannibalism, you start to transform into something else. And it's like, if you're willing to go that far, you can get these like powers and stuff, but like it's at that cost. And I think like the movie, like it shows that with the first guy that turns into a Wendigo, because like he eats a person, he's like eating his like intestines or whatever in that room. But then Abe or whatever, is that his fucking name? I don't know. Yeah,
he's like slowly turning into one. Yeah,
is just turning into And it's just like Steven said, there is no lot. This movie is nothing. There's no logic. There's no writing. It's just sloppy to me. Like it's just.
It's disappointing. Like, this is a Blumhouse movie. I think this budget, I think, Steven, you mentioned that this budget might have been only like $15 million. I think that they could have pulled like a 28 Years Later, and they could have made, like, I don't know what 28 Years Later's budget is, but it's not $15 million. I think they put a lot of money into that film, and they know they got a good writer, they got a good director, and they know that they're really going to try to make this like a higher art, like the new Predator movie. Like, they're trying to make like big blockbuster, but also like take them seriously.
$75 million
for 28 Years Later.
Yeah,
and I think it'll make that movie, especially in the UK. It's huge over in the UK. But I think what could have been, the thing is, the game is like a movie. Like I said, it takes place in the natural world, and it's very cinematic with big name actors. And there is a storyline where all of them survive. So I think what would have been really cool is just to get the same actors and to have it as a continuation of whatever storyline was in the game, that they all survived, and base your movie off of that and give them some other reason to go to the cabin. Like, that could have been big, especially Rami Malek's like the biggest name actor out of all of them, but still, like, Hayden Panettiere, like, that would have been really cool. And I think there's so many fans of the game. Obviously, they just attached, which is what a lot of people are saying, they attached the name Until Dawn onto the script.
I believe that's 100% what it is. I think this is very much a Resident Evil situation where there was either a full script or a treatment, and they felt kind of like they could put this branding on it to get some funding for it and just do it. That it's really what it feels like. I was thinking about something too. Like, it is kind of cool that every time we see the night or whatever, there's a different monster or a different killer or whatever. But also, if you're looking at one of these movies, that's really sort of your base level horror movie. You either invest in the characters, or you don't invest in the characters and you invest in the killer. But I couldn't invest in the killer because it was different. Like, it kept changing. If you'd given me one, like a Jason type of thing, maybe I would like invest in that a little bit more. But I found myself kind of like not caring about either fucking side of it.
But it didn't even go into like actually committing to having everything be different each night, because the masked killer is just like there to kill them occasionally, or like he himself will go kill them. The guy who's running it. It's like,
there's only two things in the game.
What?
There's only the Wendigos and the killer and the masked killer in the game. That's all there is. So I think that's maybe why they showed him so much, because like, here you go, Until Dawn fans. Now we're doing something completely
little
fucking
bit.
different, but we got that mask dye there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
So
they
Stone, since you've
described the
played
script
some of
as
the
sorry.
Oh, go ahead, Dan. Finish what you were saying.
I was gonna say, just related to what we said, they described the script as an R-rated love letter to the horror genre, and it's like it's not though. Like because the Stone said
Yeah.
it takes the two elements, it's only doing a couple things, and it like half shows you other stuff, but like it's not actually doing that. So like I don't even I feel it feels disingenuous with how they even marketed it.
Yeah, so I had a question for Stone, since you've played some of Until Dawn now. Do you think, based on what you're seeing in the game, do you think it would be done better as a series? Because I feel like with some of these games, they have such big stories, it's hard to condense into a movie, but you can sometimes stick more to an adaptation in a series format, which we see with The Last of Us. I haven't played The Last of Us, but I know a lot of people that do play the games really enjoy the adaptation in a series form. But in a series, you can put a lot more in. So do you think Until Dawn could be done better as a series?
100%, but exactly like the storyline that I said is you get all
Mhm.
the exact same actors and have them survive. The original game is canon. The storyline is they all survived, but they went through the traumatic events of what happened there. Get all the original actors back for a follow-up series. They go to the cabin, have to do that for some reason. And because you're out watching as a series, you can have the Bandersnatch like components where you make decisions for the characters on the screen. But the thing is, why it's not a remake and why it's a continuation is now what made the game so special. Like people who've played the game now in this new version do not know what the decision that it restarts that whole intrigue about the whole game in general. Is now you have these 8 characters again and you still don't know what's going to happen to them. And this is all new area for you. So now you have a decision yet again to see whether or not you kill these people or not. And the thing is too is the deaths are very gruesome in the game. I guess they're a little bit in this too. I mean, but I honestly, I mean, the exploding bodies is fun. But that's the thing too, is the exploding bodies is very comedic, right? The game is serious. Like people fall off of cliffs and just like onto rocks, and they're just there, just like the game is very dramatic. So I think that is the perfect combination of adapting this to live action, but also giving it enough intrigue for both newcomers and people who are fans of the games to enjoy it. Like that is a money HBO, same actors, continuation, but you get to choose what the actors do still, and they filmed tons of scenarios, and you like imagine if you have to rewatch the series over again and you get alternate endings. Can you That's like printing money. And also it's so good for the studio because it allows them to rewatch your series over and over again. I don't know if that's possible. I don't know. I mean, maybe Steven's about to chime in here, but that would be incredible, like something we've never seen before when it comes to this stuff.
I think in concept it sounds cool, but if we think about back to Bandersnatch, there's a narrative flow that just is like that connectivity from episode to episode is not as consistent and organic because everything is kind of broken in ways so that you can watch a different episode here, a different episode there. I think storytelling wise, it's really difficult to do that. It's just different mediums, you know. I don't. If we're using Bandersnatch as an example, I think Bandersnatch to me did not work. It was gimmicky more than it was actual storytelling to me. And I think there's this particular game is different because I haven't played the game, but I do know it's basically a bunch of quick time events, which makes it more of an interactive movie than something more built around game mechanics. But
Very much so.
when you write stories for games like a Resident Evil, Silent Hill, whatever, the story is written around the mechanics of the game. There's side quests and fetch quests and things to fatten up the game. And the stories, even the good ones, are often very convoluted because they have to be to give us a reasonably long game to play. And I think bringing that over to another medium like TV or movies, it's just really difficult to do. And that's why I'm such a proponent of pick the game that has very little story, you know, and write a cool story to go with it.
You want to know what I would do if I was making this TV series? Give me 8 episodes. Literally, if you can do what you're doing here. Give me 8 episodes. Give me each episode with a different genre or aesthetic to it, and give me a different ending with these people. Different people die. They have different interactions. There's different stakes. And just give me a little 50-minute mini horror movie in a particular style. And
So
maybe they all fucking die. Maybe 2 of them live. Maybe they all live. And there can be 8 to 10 episodes. Just give me something different each one. That's it.
so you're doing an
awesome.
anthology.
Yeah,
It's like an anthology. I
you
think
can
that
still
sounds
present
kind
it
of
in
fun.
the way that it's you're seeing a different version of this night or whatever. Like that would be cool. Like this is nothing, and there's no, like you said, the stakes are the main problem. I wanted to say quickly as a positive. We've just been teeing off on this, and I'm sorry, Crystal, because I know you liked it more, but I think there's one good actor in this movie. I'm curious if any of you would agree with me. If you had to pick out one person that you think is actually a good actor here, who would you pick?
It's hard because we've seen some of these people in other things. Oh goodness, I got to think.
I
of
think
her
it's
name.
Nina Odessa Azion. I think she's a good
Zion.
actress.
See, I
Zion.
like her. She was in Hellraiser. Not that Hellraiser was a great movie. I've seen her in Sitting in Bars with Cakes, which is like a very she's very emotional in it because she's playing the best friend of someone that is dying of cancer. So I've seen Odessa in different roles. So I think she is a good actress. I don't think you'd be able to tell in this one. Her name is Ji Young Yu, the one that plays the girl with the psychic abilities. She was recently in the movie Freaky Tales.
Yeah.
And I thought she did great in that film. So
She was awesome in that film. Yeah.
I think it's hard because I think there are good young actors in this. They're just not really given much to showcase their talents in this because of the story, because of the dialogues, and because we don't care about the characters.
Yeah.
Ultimately, all of these actors could be great. I just think the directing and script do not allow us to know.
I'm so curious to hear who it is. Did I choose right?
No, I think it's 100% Odessa Zion, and she was in last year. She was in, and I wanted to call it out. She was in Fresh Kills, which is the movie that Jennifer Esposito. Did any of you watch that?
Mm-mm.
Jennifer Esposito, who was an actor,
Yeah, I know.
for a long time, directed this. Basically, it's
I remember you talking about that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like an independent mafia movie around the women that are involved in that story, and she's the star with Jennifer Esposito and Emily Bader. She's freaking awesome in that movie, and I knew I recognized her, and that's what it was from. I think she's a really good actor, and I think she was really trying in this.
She's going to be a Marty Supreme later this year from Josh Safdie with Timothy Chalamet.
Yeah, I feel like she's gonna really kind of blow up. I might make a video about that, but I think she's really good, and I'm excited to see her career.
Yeah, she comes from an acting family too. She has a sister. I can't remember her sister's name, but she's actually a decent actress too. I think it's her younger sister, but they come from a film making family.
I want to talk about.
I'm just thinking about a series idea. I was gonna say, to be honest, which is so funny because I know Bandersnatch is like that. I've never seen Bandersnatch, so I don't necessarily know how that works when it comes, because Bandersnatch is a movie, right?
No, it was a series.
It's
Kind of.
Bandersnatch. Isn't it just that one episode though?
Yeah, it's one. You're right. It's really one movie just broken up, so you can watch through it. It's multiple episodes of one movie. Yeah, you're right.
I was saying what could work is with my idea, rather than constantly during one episode being like, oh, I want the character to lie, I want the character to, tell the truth, is at the end of the episode, you make a big decision for the characters. And then your next episode you get is based off of that decision you make. And then you watch the second episode. And the second episode, obviously, I'm thinking from a filmmaking perspective, how difficult that would be to make little changes.
So much work.
But it's essentially, how many episodes do you break it up in? So, it would be difficult. Like I said, I think this could really work on HBO or something like that. I don't know how much you stretch it out for, but just those little things like that. I think in a perfect world, this could happen, but obviously it doesn't. So now we have Until Dawn.
Yeah, but even if you do that, I don't really know how that's even feasible, because then you're making a second episode, and then the second episode, or there's 2 second episodes, or are there 3 second episodes, are there 4 second episodes? Then are
It's a
there
lot of time.
10 third episode? Like, it's,
Yes. So think of it like this from a filmmaking perspective. I've got one movie, Bandersnatch, and I'm breaking it up into 8 episodes, but I'm giving so many opportunities for decision making by the audience that I'm actually making that movie 6, 7, 8 times. Well, obviously, it's not each time you make it, it's not going to be more expensive because you're repurposing a lot of things, but it's still going to be like making multiple movies, and you're only releasing it as a single experience. I think it's really difficult looking at it from a return on investment type of thing. I think it's difficult.
Well, like I said, is you have people that here's the thing, it would be very expensive to do it, right?
Mhm.
But then you have everybody possibly maybe wanting to rewatch the series to see what other endings they get. And
Yeah.
if there's 3 or 4 or 5 of them, I mean, that's asking a
A lot of
lot.
streams.
That's a lot of streams and that's a lot of revenue coming in. So it could work. It's just never. It's not going to ever. It's just a dream.
Well,
how
and-
would that even work though? Like, how many endings would you have for each episode? Like, that would spawn off literally trees of episodes. Like, it's not actually
the amount you would have of time if you have one, and then it's going to branch off 3 options, and then you're branching off from all these different ones. It would take a lot of time.
You have 6 endings, right? Off the first episode, you have 2 alternates, and then the second episode,
You're going to start high.
So
Second
also-
episode-
for 10 years, it's a decade-long commitment for these actors.
Exactly. So also, it's a different mentality, right? So gamers in particular, gamers will replay a game over and over again to see the different ending. But will casual movie fans watch it over and over again for a different ending? I would argue probably not. Probably not. And I think you could look at gameplay and see, okay, let's look at Resident Evil, or let's look at Until Dawn, and it has all these different endings. How many people played it multiple times to see the different endings? Clearly there's a lot that would do it, but there's probably a lot more that just played it once and thought, I could play it again to see the alternate ending, but I'm going to have to re-see a lot of shit that I've already seen, so I probably won't do it.
You really like a character, and then all of a sudden all of your decisions like make them die. So you're like, maybe if I made a different decision, can I see if my character lives?
I'm with you, because I would go through with the character that I like because I'm twisted and find all the ways to kill that character. I would do
That too. I don't know.
But I don't think there's enough of a market for that in movies and TV for it. I would do it if they did that. Clearly, I watched Bandersnatch, and I watched it a couple of times to try and see multiple endings, but I don't know. I think it's
so interesting.
I think it's something that you could do in animation, maybe, because it would be cheaper.
I was thinking. Maybe if you animate it, then you could have more possibility, and you can get more creative. You're not worried about, VFX, practical effects, and the time you're going to have for actors and their schedules and working that around. I feel like if it was animated, that could be done that way.
That's the thing too, is there's no visual effects that you would have to have if you actually adapt the game, because it's just the mask killer and the Wendigos.
And the
You do that
Wendigos,
with
yeah.
with the practical effects. So they made the movie a little bit more expensive just by doing their little, restart the day kind of gag with a bunch of new monsters. I will say the most horrific thing to come out of this movie was the fact that they had a screening in LA where they made people watch it on repeat until dawn.
It was.
And
They
then-
did 5 cities.
They did 5 cities, and then
It
you had a
was 5
possibility of
cities.
winning $5,000.
But you can't. My thing is, you can't go to the bathroom. You can't doze off. You can't even go to the restroom. It was 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. and
Where do
it's
you-
watching Until Dawn for 12 hours.
You could have
Dan would be
$10,000
out after
on
the first
you could have
watch.
$10,000 on a platter to just do that and be able to use the bathroom. I'm not fucking doing it. Sorry.
Oh, I'd do it.
Oh,
I'd do it.
oh my god.
Give me that 10K. I'd do it.
What happened? Like, if they had to use the bathroom, did they lose? So did they just not drink the entire time they're there for 12 hours?
You're just you fast. You have to come up with a game
This is
plan.
insanity.
First, I'm going to fast because
I
can't
knew
go
you didn't know
before
about this,
2.
Dan.
No.
And then you just sip water so you don't, die of dehydration. And my thing is the not dozing off. This is the type of movie where I can't watch it for 12 hours.
Can you imagine watching this for 12 hours straight?
I'd rather not
Holy
eat
shit.
for 12 hours
Yep.
straight.
That would be rough. It would be rough.
Back.
That'd be like a deathbed conversation with like my child. Be like, Dad, is there anything you like, or Grandpa, Grandpap? Is there anything where you regret in life? I was like, I stayed awake in a theater for 12 fucking hours watching Until Dawn, and I did not get, and I didn't get. Here's the thing:
Didn't
you
get
have a
money.
chance to win. You have a
Mhm.
chance to win.
Mm. Oh no! If I do this, I have to get that money. I'm not doing it
No,
for a chance. That
no,
I'm.
Yeah, you need
Mm-mm.
the guarantee. If you
Yeah,
make it, you get
exactly.
the money.
Dan, I knew you didn't know about this. I'm so glad I remembered to talk about it.
That's terrible. That should be
I
a crime.
I did want to make sure while we're talking about this and mention the director, David F. Sandberg. His career is interesting because he's done some really cool short films. But when he turns those like lights out, when he does features, it's mostly not good. I think the first Shazam movie was okay, but I can't even look at that movie now for other reasons. Um,
Yeah, good old
but
Zachary Levi.
Absolutely.
Zachary Levi, yeah, I just can't look at his face now.
Same.
But here's the thing about David F. Sandberg. I root for him. I told this to Crystal before when I'm like, I want him to succeed. I need him to make a good movie because he is one of the least gatekeepery filmmakers working in Hollywood. You can go, he has a YouTube channel called Pony Smasher. I don't know why he calls it that, but um, he shows you everything he does, filmmaking wise. During lockdown, he was making films at home with his family. Of course, he had all of his gear. Like, turns out, I fell in love with his channel because I see he's using a lot of the same gear that I use. But he's teaching. You want to know how to do good sound? Go watch his YouTube channel. You want to know how to make a little indie short film on no money? Go watch his YouTube channel. He's so giving to like indie and young filmmakers, and it makes me sad that he hasn't had like more of a success. Every movie he puts out, I will go see. I don't care because this guy really gives back, and I love that.
I'm gonna say two things about him. One is I'm looking at a picture of him. I realized that he's like one of those faces on the missing posters.
He is, yeah.
Yeah. But then also with you guys being the horror community, I wanted to ask you this. Why do you think it is that when it comes to these DC, Marvel stuff projects like that, why they choose horror directors a whole lot to do that? Because that just doesn't make sense to me. I think the movies like tonally obviously Lights Out is very different from Shazam. So why would someone look at Lights Out and be like, that's the guy that I think is the one for that? Like I'm thinking of James Wan. Like what was it in Insidious and The Conjuring where they're like, dude, Aquaman for sure. I've never gotten that. Okay.
I know the answer.
I think it depends on the type of movie though, because if it's X-Men, X-Men can be done darker. It depends on which like IP franchise we're going into, because I think some of them can be really dark, and I've just been waiting for a dark ass X-Men because they have such cool characters and it is a dark and gritty world. So I could see it in that sense, but I mean, I don't want to see, a dark Miss Marvel or a dark Superman per se. So I get what you're saying, but I think it depends on who the characters and storyline we're focusing on.
I actually think it's something different than that. I think that's clearly, I agree with you. That is definitely a piece of it. But I also think there's a certain return on investment in horror. These guys are utilitarian directors. They could take $3 million, make a movie that makes 18. That's a good return on investment. So if you're going to give, you need to bring in a filmmaker that has the utility of it. They're good with budgets. They can hit their days. They can come in under budget, and they have a decent visual sense, because most of these directors are working under heavy scrutiny, from a group of people that are telling these stories. So we just need someone in that director's chair who can knock that film out, hit their days, and tell the actors what to do. And so the horror genre is a good place to go for that. And I think that's a big piece of it. I honestly agree with what Crystal said, especially if it's characters that have a little bit of a darker tinge to them. But I also think it's strictly about money. I think it's,
and it could be about the horror community as well, because they get really attached to their people, the actors that are consistently, like Patrick Wilson and some of these actors, directors that constantly do it. They get attached. People love Jordan Peele. They'll watch anything he does. People will go Mike Flanagan. Like there are certain ones where it's like, oh, whatever they're going to do, just like you said with this director, whatever he does, you're going to go watch it, even if you think it's going to be shit. So yeah. I think there is part of a community aspect in that too.
Yeah, they love
That
Jordan
makes
Peele
that
so
makes
much that they're going to say that he's doing a movie that he's not doing.
You could do My
yeah,
Little Pony and I'll watch it.
exactly.
Everyone stop making videos saying that this is Jordan Peele's next movie. That
That,
really
that that's exactly what I was saying. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean they're not, the studio is unabashedly doing that as well, and I just think that's such
yeah,
a
but you should do
disservice.
like 30 seconds of research to like see what the deal is. But
Yeah.
also,
I've-
I was gonna say another potentially, and Steven, maybe you could answer yes or no on this, but like more depressing answer is, do you think maybe it's taking a director that like hasn't been given big opportunities or has only worked with small budgets and saying, hey, you can do this, but maybe the studio has a good amount of control as to what the finished product actually is, and they want someone that, you know, they'll present it as they're getting a big opportunity, but they're not actually really necessarily making their movie.
That's
I mean, Nia
1,000.
DaCosta.
I think Nia DaCosta was
Yep.
a huge
Yeah.
example of
100%.
that.
Yeah.
That's
That
1,000% it. That is 100. That is it. And these directors know it, but they also know that if they can make this movie and it comes out and it does well, then they will get other opportunities. It's one of those things, you just take the hit, you do the work, because that will get you the next thing that you want to do. It's 100% it. Like I said, they know they can hit their days. They know they can do it tight on budget, and they're still small, so they're going to do what we tell them to do.
Yeah.
Dude,
It is.
props to Nia DaCosta from coming from off like the flop that was the Marvels, but going to direct the second part of the 28 Years Later.
Mhm.
That's so interesting. Just to watch when that trilogy comes out, to like see why they chose her to do the second part, but then Danny Boyle is doing the first and the third part. I think that's very intriguing.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
I'm excited for her to, obviously after what happened to her, and I think it was unfair for her to get another opportunity like that. So
Yeah, Crystal, to what you were saying about Jordan Peele, Jordan Peele doing X-Men, come on, that we needed that. We needed that, but I think Jordan Peele is too much of an auteur in a way to work in that confined space. He
Yeah.
will not be told what to do.
Sorry, Steven. They
No, go
tried
ahead.
to do what you're saying, Crystal, with the New Mutants, right? Like they
tried.
tried to they wanted to make
bad.
a horror movie, and then they were like, "No, just kidding." Like, it's such an odd movie, but
New Mutants was such a bad film, and with great actors. I was so it had the pieces, and they just did not put the puzzle together correctly. We got a very interesting film that sucked.
Steven, explain to me why when I'm like, okay, a New Mutants, you know, a horror X-Men, I'm gonna get, you know what? The guy who directed The Fault in Our Stars. That's a good choice. Like, I don't understand. I do not understand why they pick people that just don't make sense for the material. I don't understand.
It's 100% for what I said. They already have 9 times out of 10. A lot of the pre-production work on these movies are done already before they even bring the director in, which is so fucking weird. But it is, and if you look, even with, I believe, Fantastic Four coming out, we have a TV director. They need somebody to sit in seat and drive the ship. That's it. You need to be able to steer and dodge the icebergs. That's it. Everything else is being done by other people around you. So they can bring, like Dan mentioned, they can bring someone in that will work cheap and do what they're told. And that's why Marvel, the MCU, has not been good since Endgame. Because you look, it started with Jon Favreau, who had a very specific idea about what he wanted to do with Iron Man, and that movie was good, you know. And the Russo brothers coming from TV, that was a big surprise that they could do any. You know, they didn't seem like the ones that you would think of to do the movies that they did, but they did a good job. But we saw so many times a really cool director that seemed perfect for a franchise come in, start the conversation, and then dip because they weren't given enough control to do a movie that they would feel proud of. And that's where we are, you know. And I think until Marvel and DC really let some creators come in and have their way with these franchises, we're going to stay in that sort of very bland place. And I don't know, maybe DC coming forward with James Gunn is going to be better about that. We'll see.
and that's what it feels like they're trying to do with picking people for movies where they might just let them kind of cook and like picking the director thoughtfully and with intention, like to fit the tone and the subject matter that you're trying to deal with. I mean, you know, DC is doing some crazy stuff with who they're bringing in. They were talking about that Sergeant Rock movie with Luca Guadagnino. Like just wild
There-
stuff.
There are some very
Daniel Craig, I
thick
think
rumors, though.
Daniel Craig pulled himself out of, but still interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a very, very big rumors floating around right now that they're going to cancel the Batman Part 2, which I'm just scared to see if that's going to happen or not. I don't know. It'll be very interesting. But we're talking so much about filmmaking.
People would
Go
be
ahead.
pissed off. Like,
Yes.
yeah, it's
We've been talking so much about filmmaking. Do you guys want to say a little bit about your guys' project again before we close out the episode? I think that'd be a pretty good segue.
Go ahead. Steve.
Whatever you want to say. As much, the floor is yours. We can go another hour.
Crystal, you don't want to pitch this. You're really good at it.
yeah. And tell people how they can help too. Like, what's best.
Yeah. So as far as helping, obviously, we talked earlier, this is kind of a love letter to the horror community to really showcase the community that the horror genre has. So we are putting this together. We are kind of traveling around the country. We're going to be interviewing people. We already have some bigger horror talk creators that we've gotten great interviews out of. However, it's expensive to travel. So we do have an Indiegogo. We have our social media. It's Love Horror Doc. On all social medias, we also have lovehorrordoc.com where you can go and get to our Indiegogo from there. It's not just donating. There's actually a lot of perks. It starts off just at $10. So I know it's hard times, 2025, the world's in chaos. So not everyone has the funds. But if you're someone that has always wanted to see your name in the credits of a film, just like Paranormal Activity did back in the day, $10, you'll do like a little special thank you. Your name will be in the credits. And then it goes up from there. I know we have one where it's going to be a poster. It's either in the $25 or the $50 mark. And one of the Horror Talk community members, Justin, it's Slasher Talk. He is going to be creating the poster for it. We have a bunch of different ones, but the higher up you go, there are a lot of opportunities to see the filmmaking. We have a Discord. We'll have some BTS, behind the scenes stuff on there. So there are a lot of different perks to go along with contributing. It's not just donating and you don't get nothing out of it. There's like 10 different options. So, definitely go to the website, go to the Indiegogo, and you'll be able to see all the different options of helping us get it made and then getting a little something out of it too.
If you wanna watch the editing process happen, you're gonna be able to do that as we start putting the thing together. We're gonna stream the edits over Discord, so
you can watch me and Steven fight.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think it's gonna be really fun.
Fight it out.
Exactly. So yeah, we're really trying to make it as we're trying to give as much as we can give, as we can come up with. To recap on the documentary Love Horror, it's really asking the question, why does horror as a film and art genre bring people together more than any other genre of film and art out there? Why do people who love horror come together and support each other and build communities on whatever platform they can? I mean, it was Rue Morgue magazine and stuff like that back in the old days, and now it's social media, it's TikTok, it's Instagram, it's whatever. What is it that brings everybody together? And we're getting some incredible stories from people about their experiences with horror and their experiences with the community that they've built. So if horror means something to you, I think it's going to be a movie that you're going to really like.
Hopefully anybody who's listening to this episode, I mean, it would make sense for possibly horror to mean something to them, or what is a fan of Good Will Podcasting? If that's the case, thanks for sticking around, everybody. Yeah. But we like to close. I mean, you guys might be so busy with the documentary and everything to watch as much maybe as you want to. We got to see Until Dawn still and all these movies, so that's kind of cool. But is there anything that you would like to recommend, a movie to our audience we like to do at the end of the episode that maybe is a personal favorite of yours, something you recently watched? It could be anything, could be a TV show. Mine's not even going to be a movie, so you recommend anything.
Oh, anything. Me, I'm not a huge I'll watch any genre. I really like stuff that has something to say. I love me some sociopolitical commentary. Throw it in, do it well. I love it. So like my Letterboxd top 4 is basically all different genres, but that is the theme, is there's more depth to it. So definitely like Parasite, Bong Joon-ho, absolutely love that film. The Truman Show, Spirited Away. And there's a movie I highly recommend to everyone. It's from 1955, so it is a classic. It's called The Court Jester. It's starring Danny Kaye. It is actually Angela Lansbury's very first film that she's ever done. And it is a comedy parody of the story of Robin Hood, basically. It is a musical, but it is just a fantastic film, and you will not regret
It's like Men in
watching
Tights
it at
before
all.
Men in Tights.
It is before Men in Tights, but it is that kind of style where it's
Nice.
singy, dancy, kind of campy, but it's
Great.
talking about classism and all these interesting things. So you should check it out, Dan.
Yeah, I will watch this.
It is a very fun movie. Crystal brought that movie to my subscriber group, and everybody loved it. It was so fun.
Nice.
So I'm going to stick on the filmmaking side of things and give a couple of recommendations. The first one is a documentary called American Movie. It's my favorite documentary of all time, and I love it because I love political documentaries. I love all of that stuff too, but I think we can learn a lot from character studies, just meeting people that we normally wouldn't meet. And American Movie is a documentary about friends, really. It's a documentary about this guy and his buddies trying to make a movie, spending 5 years making a short film. But it's more than that. It's about their friendship and how one friend is just going to go to bat for the other one and do whatever has to be done to see his dream come true. And I think it's a very interesting documentary. And then I'm also going to recommend a movie called One Cut of the Dead. And if the director of the movie is telling you don't watch the trailer to my movie because it spoils too much, then don't watch the fucking trailer for One Cut of the Dead. Just have a little faith and trust me and go watch it. And the one thing I'll tell you about it is anytime I bring new people into my production circle, we have to watch that movie together. It's just that important, and it's really great. And then outside of those two things, I want to recommend a couple of movies that are flying under the radar that are new. And I think you're going to have to watch them streaming now, but you should. And one of them is Freaky Tales. If you like 80s anthologies, Freaky Tales is great. It's so much fun. And then I'm going to recommend The Ugly Stepsister. Still in theaters,
Still in theaters.
limited. I think mostly in AMC's now. I think it's sort of fading. But if you can catch it in the theater, you need to catch it in the theater because you've never seen a movie like this in theater. If you like, or if you have any experiences with sort of 70s Euro exploitation cinema, that's what this movie is, and it's ridiculous and fun. It actually has quite a bit to say too. There's a good bit of what Crystal's talking about, social commentary in there too. So I think those are my current recommendations.
Nice. Stone?
Speaking about movies and theaters, I was just going to recommend everyone just go to the movies this week. There's so much to see, and I've just been talking about it on Twitter. I've been making videos about it, but I went to the movies last night, and the parking lot was full, and there were so many people there, and it was really cool. So I know people don't watch movies as much as maybe we do, or if you're listening to this podcast, you don't watch as much movies as we do. That's kind of cool. So appreciate you being here. but yeah, just especially after Netflix's CEO just said, the fact that movie theaters are out of date.
Fuck that guy.
Fuck that guy. Yeah.
Yeah. That movie theaters are out of date, and he delivers films where people want to watch them at home. The fact that Revenge of the Sith is able to make $30 million probably this weekend, and you can watch that right now on Disney Plus, and people don't care, is kind of the power of just being in a public space. Now, I will say, my re-release that I viewed for Revenge of the Sith, there was a lot of ruckus in there. A lot of fans that were applauding when Anakin, put out his lightsaber for killing the younglings. So I was like, all right, guys, calm down. It was like, we don't know what are we gonna do, right? He just everyone's like, yeah. So,
it wasn't like Minecraft, though, right?
no, my Minecraft screening wasn't bad. I was just telling my buddy this yesterday. The craziest screening I've ever been in that wasn't a re-release like that was Sonic 3.
Really?
More than I was at an early screening of Deadpool and Wolverine. I was at the Minecraft movie. That is the most insane I've ever heard people, and that's the only Sonic movie I've seen. So I was just I don't know if I'm going to watch the fourth one. I might watch it in the quiet of my home, but go support the theaters, even though I just said that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll stick with that. There's a movie out. It's it's a ripoff from Dusk Till Dawn. It's called Assigners, I think, and it's from the director of Fruitvale Junction.
I love Fruitvale Junction.
And
Fruitvale Junction's fantastic.
While it is a ripoff, I've heard it's good, so people should watch that one.
For sure.
But
On the biggest screen.
yeah, no, I would say I just watched Freaky Tales 2. I really liked it. I'm going to talk about it today. I would say definitely watch that. You can. I bought it. You can rent it. I think it's a little more expensive to rent on Amazon right now. It's like $7 to rent or something. But like, I really enjoyed it. I think it's like timely, but also not. It doesn't feel like preachy. It feels like fun, and it has something to say. But it's also really entertaining, really well made. If you're a fan of Pedro Pascal, he's in it as well. And yeah, I really, really liked it. So I would recommend that. I think that's where I'll leave it right now.
It's a bummer, Dan. I know you clown on them a lot, but I think that was distributed by Lionsgate, and it's funny when they actually have a good movie, they don't like promote it at all. I barely saw any promotion for
Lionsgate sucks as a company. Like, there's
yeah,
they suck.
They're just like, we got Hunger Games, and that's about it. Oh, they do have John Wick, but I don't think Ballerina's gonna be that good. I'm very scared for that movie.
Yeah, that one.
I know it went through a lot of reshoots. Ugh. They're like, oh, they actually do want Keanu. I guess. Come on in here, buddy.
And you guys can cut this if you want to. I did make a note about. I did want to mention John Wick 4, because John Wick 4 I think is a really good example of video game, like a good example of how video game influence can destroy a movie. Because I don't fucking like that movie, John Wick 4. I think it's garbage, and I really hate it when it goes into the isometric Diablo view. I'm like, fuck you, video game movie. I hate you, and I just hate it. Hate it.
That's like my favorite scene in the movie when he's at like that shotgun,
The
aerial view. That's so fucking cool, dude.
There's no stakes. There's no stakes. Everybody's gonna live. It's fine because I have Batman's cape made into my jacket, and it can reflect nuclear bombs. It doesn't matter. We're good. Nothing happens.
The steaks were in my lap in the theater as I was like eating it, and just like that's where the steak was. I went to a fancy theater to watch that, but that's not at my AMC.
Damn, that is a hot take to end episode. Holy shit.
Yeah, well, on that, this will be Steven's last time in the pod. Wow, you almost had it there.
With a bang.
Yeah, you almost had it there. Wow.
But, did you like that one, Dan? Did you like John Wick 4?
Oh, I love it. I mean, I understand what you're saying. It is a ridiculous. He's just a superhero. Like, I get that.
I just couldn't care.
They did kill him, which I guess he's not actually dead. Mm-hmm. But I feel like it's very campy. Like, I think it knows it's silly, but I can understand what you're saying. And like the first movie, going from the first movie to that has been an evolution. Like, it definitely feels more grounded and real. And it's
the first movie's
like.
The first movie's a near perfect little action movie. It does everything right. You can relate to the character. You can relate to his pain. All that's gone in the fourth movie. The fourth movie is just, let's see how ridiculous we can be for an hour and a half. And I'm like,
I love John Wick 4. I went and saw that by myself, but what John Wick the evolution of it reminds me of Fast and the Furious, where it's less realistic as you go, but John Wick does it in such a fun way to where I don't care. I'm here for the aesthetic and the vibe, and I love it.
I think before that sequence, if I'm not mistaken, is like the scene where we saw him go like down the stairs.
Yeah.
So we know he's kind of like invincible, so he can just
that
like
so be like holy hell.
Yeah, we could just be like a superhero now and just do that.
Maybe I should just rewatch it as a comedy and see if I like it better. But yeah, it just like, I don't know. I mean, the minute we got the bulletproof jacket that you can hold up like Batman's cape to block bullets, I was like, well, this turned into something different. And I really liked what the first movie and to some degree the second movie were doing. And I just
the first movie is my favorite out of all of them. I still like the first movie just because of that reason. But
yeah,
I agree. But if you guys want to,
I was gonna say I love Keanu Reeves so much as a person. Like I would blindly.
Is he like Nick Cage level for you though?
He's not Nick Cage, but he's an awesome guy. So
Dan would be,
I agree with that. Jacket. I will see everything that Keanu Reeves does just because of that.
Yeah,
and we'll see if I like it, but I'll see it.
Yeah, they got us with Ballerina. It don't look good, but they got Keanu in there, so I guess we have to
we're all going. Yep.
But you guys want to plug where people can like find you and to learn more information about the doc? Obviously, you already said more information about the documentary, but if you want to plug your socials, that way they can follow you and you'll give updates and stuff like that.
Yeah, I keep mine simple. It's just, hey, Crystal J. You can find me, Crystal Justine, on TikTok, Instagram, all the regulars. One thing me and Steven don't talk about, aside from the documentary, we actually have a website. It's thecinamanook.com. We do movie reviews, movie news. It's newer. We've had it for about a year, but we're just kind of starting to kick that into overdrive, getting it more consistent these last few months. So there's also thecinamanook.com, which we have all socials for that as well.
Nice.
Yep. I keep it pretty simple too. It's OTS Movies on Instagram, Letterboxd, and TikTok. That's probably the most of it. But yeah, also the cinemanook.com and all those socials too. So yeah, that's and love horror doc. Please, if you don't do anything else, go and follow those socials and stay up to date on what we're doing with that documentary.
Yeah, for sure. Well, if anybody, thank you guys for being here.
Thank you for inviting
waking
us.
up very early. We've gone a little bit longer than we usually do, but that's great because that means the conversation was awesome, which it was. A lot of Keanu Reeves there at the end, which I wasn't expecting. A lot of John Wick 4 hate, but that's the great thing about podcasts. You never know where they're going to go. To be honest, I will say,
you'll see Steven, so watch this episode.
Yeah, this is the last time.
I'm here for that.
But next week, I think we're going to put a lot of work into our episodes and talk about the new Thunderbolts movie, but then also try to find out where the Thunderbolts came from and maybe rewatch Falcon and the Winter Soldier, which I think was what Captain America Brave New World should have been. We've talked about that before. Yeah. But yeah, so we're going to watch Black Widow, maybe Ant-Man and the Wasp. So it'll be a...
Ooh, sorry, man. Sorry about you.
That'll be something. Dan looks very excited for that. So, guys, if you want to see a very happy Dan next week, make sure you come back for that. But until then,
all week.
Yeah. Until then, please though, this week, go to the movies, go outside, sit on a park bench, call up your friends, and we'll see you then. Peace out, everybody.